All right. I know this isn't any fun to talk about, but we should. Okay. So who's going to do what?
I'll pack the dead batteries.
Great.
I'll only put what I don't need into a duffel bag.
Perfect. That's totally unhelpful.
No problem.
Pack. Visit ready.gov/kids for tips and information.
Everybody for tuning in on your progressive channel. I don't know it either. On your progressive channels across the nation. For those of you watching on YouTube, youtube.com/TawkrTV is the link. Of course, there's free speech TV, which you can see on DirecTV and on Dish Network. You can tweet us at BP Show, or if you want to give us a phone call, 866-55-PRESS, 866-55-77377. I was just talking to Peter, who's the executive producer of this show. Good morning, sir.
Hello, Clinton.
How are you?
I'm well.
Drum roll, please, for...
Look who's back.
Jamie Benson.
Look who's back.
Hey, Jamie.
Hey,
How are you, man?
I didn't need that.
No shade. Just glad to see you.
No, I didn't think so, but I didn't need that either.
Okay.
I'm very thankful for that.
Jamie Benson is here, and if you give us a phone call at the aforementioned number, Ray Rogers will screen the calls, and Cyprian Bolding is here, too, to show you all. You like my sweater?
Nice.
Yo, my hood game.
There you go.
My cable knit game. Combo.
Is that Christmas edition?
Yes, it is. It's a bit of both. It's a little bit of the dark side, a little bit of everything.
By the way, Jamie, you might want to be careful in there because I've been running the board in your absence. The board might still be a little warm.
Hot.
For a little hot in there from having some master's hands
all
on
right,
them.
so hold on. Since Jamie's back, we all did How Was Your Holiday, and you weren't here.
Yeah.
So you got to tell us how are things in Maine and so on and so forth. Give us the spiel.
It was great. I had a very relaxing time home. Didn't get to. Usually I do one of the Boston sports games. I didn't do Patriots or Celtics or anything like that. I stayed in Maine the whole time.
Okay.
Got a record player for Christmas.
Oh,
which
okay.
was,
All right. That means you're officially a grown-up now.
Officially grown up. Well, I'd gone 5 years with that one. I had one early on in life, but got lost in the shuffle of college radio, and now I'm back in the game with a nice record player. And I went to Portland, by the way, has far more record shops than I recollect.
I know,
as a
I've
child. You've probably perused them more recently than I have, and I spent about 2 hours at 3 different record shops.
Okay.
On Saturday and picked up some good.
So
What'd you get?
I got Supertramp, Stevie Wonder, Michael Jackson's.
Stevie ain't blind.
That's a separate story.
That's true.
We're getting into the truth.
We're not going to get into Stevie Wonder stuff.
Yeah, that's it. And Brian Auger, little 60s piano organ.
All right, well, let me tell you a little something. I am a part of 2 clubs, vinyl-wise. Peter, I don't know if you know this. Because I am a card-carrying member of the late millennial club, as I'll call it, a.k.a. the Nintendo generation, I get vinyl sent to my house.
Do you really?
Yes.
Columbia House style?
Every month. By the by, there's a story that Columbia House is coming back. That's a separate discussion.
Really?
Yeah. Anyway, I get a vinyl sent once a week to my house. Once a month to my house. It's part of a club. It's called Vinyl Me Please. And I also, this is the kicker, as a side product, I get a daily text message that sends you a "Do you want this vinyl?" bit. And you can just text back yes.
Wow.
And it's ended.
That's
it's pretty phenomenal.
This is actually like why I don't do the vinyl thing is because I obsess. And I would have an entire room of vinyl in my
There's nothing
house.
wrong with that.
No. There's nothing wrong with that. It's just I can't. I got enough vices in my life.
I hear you. I lost them all in a house fire a while ago, so I'm trying to build them back up. But getting that daily text, we're like,
that text is dangerous.
No, it's very
cool.
All right, so now that we've all caught up and everybody's back, I want to welcome everybody in. We got a lot of serious news to get to today, but first,
this is
Peter
the Full
Ogburn.
Court Press.
Yes, indeed. Just a couple of other stories making news. You hear this band, the Beatles? You hear these guys?
Who are those guys?
These guys. Well, so this band, the Beatles, right? So they all their music, their entire catalog went up on Spotify over Christmas weekend.
Seriously?
Right? Yeah, everything.
Sorry,
everything.
I'm not up on my Beatles news. Pardon me.
Yeah, I'm not a huge Beatles guy. But it was a big deal for Spotify fans and people who like the Beatles. So what songs were leading the most listened to
hold
on Spotify?
I could probably name 4 total Beatles songs.
Okay.
That bad, huh?
One of which is, but my favorite is Lucy in the Sky with Diamonds.
Fantastic record.
Which is a good song. Second of which is Hey Jude. Third of which is, we're getting light here. I don't know that I can name another Beatles song. I mean, I could, but I don't. I mean, if you told me, is this a Beatles song or not, I could probably tell you, but I can't name one off the top of my head.
Okay, the number one song that has been downloaded, or streamed, I should say, from Spotify is Come Together.
Oh,
Come
yeah,
Together, number one.
Number
two,
Is that song?
Yeah, that's the one.
Okay.
Number 2 is Hey Jude, which
All
you
right.
named. Number 3 is Here Comes the Sun.
Which is not.
Is that a basic song?
It's a basic
That's for the
song.
basics?
There are a lot of basic Beatles songs. I'm not a big Beatles.
That's kind of the Beatles' whole bit.
Yeah, it's like Sesame Street music.
Right.
Right. So, but
No shade on the Beatles. I mean, I understand their importance to the game, but
just
just not a huge fan.
Throw a little shade on the Beatles. That's, hey. Congratulations to actress Isla Fisher and her husband, Sacha Baron Cohen. They have been so into the story of the Syrian refugees that they together have donated $1 million to different charities that are supporting Syrian refugees. $500,000 are going to Save the Children to pay for measles vaccinations for children in northern Syria, and $500,000 to other organizations to help out with Syrian refugees. So congratulations to them. That's a big thing.
Sacha Baron Cohen of Borat and Ali G fame. A lot of people think he's just a jokester. He's actually a very smart guy.
Super smart guy.
Incredibly thoughtful person.
Yeah. We talked yesterday about New Year's Eve plans. How about this? If you're in New York City, here are a couple of options. The New York Post rounded up a couple of different eateries in New York City's Times Square and the special deals that they are offering. Deals. How about going to Olive Garden?
No.
$400 per person gets you a buffet, which includes fettuccine Alfredo and other of their Italian specialties, a DJ, an open...
Whoa!
A DJ.
Whoa, a DJ?
Yeah.
Yo,
a DJ.
Jamie, here's the deal. Yo, fam, what's up? What's going on? What are you doing New Year's Eve? Yo, I got that Olive Garden DJ
I got an
gig.
Olive Garden hookup.
Yo, I got the gig.
I got that endless bread bowl, endless pasta bowl.
By the way, no breadsticks included with this.
What?
This is like an absolute deal killer. If the 400
that's
wasn't
a boycott.
already brutal
That's
enough,
unfair.
they said no breadsticks. But they are going to have all the food you can eat of like pastas and stuff like
Okay.
that, and an open bar. So if Italian
I need to know
margaritas
who
are
that
your
DJ
thing,
is. I need to know who that DJ is.
yeah, right.
Because
You could-
that's a deal you take like unironically. You're like, listen, I get it.
Yeah.
I'll DJ the Olive Garden in
Yeah,
Times
I'll
Square
handle
on
this.
New Year's Eve.
Yeah.
It will be terrible, but it will be fun.
They also say you will not get a view of the ball dropping on Times Square because of where the restaurant sits. Ruby Tuesdays, by the way, they have a deal, $1,600 for 2 people. That gets you a VIP table with bottle service and unlimited appetizers.
Now we're talking.
Yeah, right?
Now we're talking bottle service. I can live with that.
Guy Fieri's American Kitchen and Bar, $700 per person, means bottle service and platters of food and an hors d'oeuvre buffet, plus a stomach ache, I would imagine. TGI Fridays, $899 per couple for the champagne VIP package, which means you get hummus, salsa, and bags of chips to pass around. That's what they offer. That's what they offer
These
for
are adult-
$900.
These are adult children's birthday parties.
Pretty much.
That's what they are.
Pretty
That's
much.
basically- Here's a loot bag.
Yeah.
Kids, run around.
For
Don't
hummus
fight.
and salsa. I mean,
What
good
a
grief.
mess. If I were an aspiring TV executive, I would have cameras on every single one of those restaurants. And I would be cutting film the
Absolutely.
next day, instantly, to make a
Absolutely.
reality show about what it's like to be in a restaurant on New Year's Eve. That'd be great. All right. Ruby Tuesdays, former employer of Clinton Yates and Travis Waldron. You
Oh,
should
wow,
know
look at that.
Sidebar, in case you're watching. All right, so yesterday, after we did the show, and we talked to my friend Rembert Brown about the winner of the year 2015, and he brought up his winner, which is the concept of hate. And he mentioned that it's a terrible thing to have to come to grips with, but conceptually is pretty much where we've been in 2015. If you look at all the people that have advanced themselves on their words, most of them were not related to anything close to love or anything close to, well, for lack of a better term, intelligence. A lot of them were based on discord and dislike of other people. And not soon after that we had that discussion on this radio program, news came out from Cuyahoga County, where in Ohio, where the case of Tamir Rice is being heard by a grand jury. 2 officers, one of whom was training the other, one of whom had been previously dismissed from his job for basically not being able to handle the job of being a police officer, They shot a 12-year-old boy. The 12-year-old boy had a toy gun. Those police officers will face 0 charges for said acts. Now, we're going to talk about this a lot today on today's show, and I'm trying really hard not to just sort of dump all my emotions on the microphone right now because we got a lot of show to get through and we got a lot of stuff to do. But number one, I want to get your thoughts. 866-55-PRESS, 866-557-7377. It wasn't really about not being surprised because at this stage of the game, if you are a human that lives in the United States of America, you understand how things work. You understand the concept of institutional and systematic racism, and you understand that the system is set up to help those who are allegedly designed to help us. I will get into this more explicitly later in the program, but I do want to know your thoughts on just what you thought about the fact that a grand jury could not come to any reason to indict these 2 officers. 866-55-PRESS, 866-557-7377. Peter, you've seen the video.
Yeah, repeatedly. I mean, it was less than 2 seconds it took for the police to pull up in their car before the gun was discharged, before they shot this boy dead. It's like I had a really, really bad reaction to this because I mean, if I'm being perfectly honest, I had gotten a little numb to these stories because they just come out in such rapid fire, right? Like it's every week.
Chicago,
almost.
we talked about yesterday.
I mean,
2 separate cases in Chicago within a couple days in terms of the news value.
I mean, it's a steady stream of stories like this, right? And you know, we get outraged every time we see it, but again, if I'm being perfectly honest, my outrage can only go so far because it turns to despair at some point. But you see a story like this, right, where lost in all of this, right? We remember after the fact that the guy who shot Tamir Rice had a history of pulling his gun out when he shouldn't, had some real problems in some previous jobs that he had
gotten legitimately fired from another police
Legitimately
force.
Fired, yeah. I mean, he had anger issues. He had problems with his weapon. And for there to not be anybody who says we need to at least take a real look at this, right? Really bothers me. Yeah. And it really, really bothers me. And even if you're one of these people who say, because they're out there, who say, well, you know, he had a gun that looked realistic, and you know, police are in the line of fire all the time. Yada yada. You know, like you hear that, right? You hear.
If
that.
you want to entertain the wingnut portion of this discussion,
it's out there. It's out there. But even if you're one of those people who believe that, right? What it comes down to in their explanation yesterday was literally shoot first, ask questions later. We can't tell, and we are not willing to wait to see if there is a fake gun, right? So we are going to assume all toy guns are real, and we will shoot you, and then we'll figure out if it was a toy gun. And that was literally part of the defense of not bringing charges yesterday, which is infuriating. That should infuriate you, even as someone who defends that line of thinking.
When I first saw the news, you know, I thought to myself, how am I surprised? Yeah. You know, I legitimately was wondering how is it possible that I am surprised by this? And it turns out, you know, when thinking about it, I mean, this was number one, it was a child. Number two, it was one of the first times when, if we think about all these cases, you know, the full thing was on video. You see someone start to finish get killed on your screen. Yeah. Watch it on your phone, watch it on your computer, watch it on your television. You've seen it. And still nothing. And as a black American, am I surprised at the lack of justice? No. But as a human that exists in 2015 going on 16, yes. I am a tad surprised that with all of this, there was nothing to be found in terms of responsibility for these 2 officers. Look, say what you want about Cleveland, say what you want about the Midwest, The fact is that it doesn't matter where you're from or where you grew up or where you're planning to go to understand this was wrong. All right? And when something wrong happens, something should be done to hold someone accountable. We're going to get very, very deep into this throughout this show. We're going to do our year in review today, but the bottom line is that the news fairy has come along and told us that we're not going to because we have more important things to discuss, such as the lives of young black children, one of which I once was. So we're going to talk about it a lot. I'm Clinton Yates, The Bill Press Show. Today is Tuesday.
On your radio, on TV, and online. This is The Bill Press Show.
This is my computer.
This is your computer. Let's go on the internet.
Let's go. Click it.
Yes.
Okay.
I cursor in between the R and the E. Pressing dot, I want you to just push the period.
She's gonna love me all over again.
That's it. Jamaica, here you come.
Here we go.
Good job.
Thank you. Thank you. And I did it by myself. Feel smarter.
So, I'm kind of new here, but I've noticed a trend. My human does this funny thing where she goes around and gets all my toys, and then she hides them in that basket by the door. You know, but it's always the same basket, and it's always in the same place. And then she acts so surprised when I find them, but, you know, she's putting them in the same basket. Again. It's like, hello? That's where you put it last time. You were the worst at hide and go seek.
So, same time next week?
Well, of course. Put away a few bucks, feel like $1 million. For free tips to help you save, go to Feed the Pig.
All right. I know this isn't any fun to talk about, but we should. Okay. So who's going to do what?
I'll pack the dead batteries.
Great.
I'll only put what I don't need into a duffel bag.
Perfect. That's totally unhelpful.
No problem.
Meanwhile, I will try to comfort everyone by speaking in a calm voice.
And I'll try to get the generator going without any gas.
Oh, let's not forget the cell phones, which probably won't work.
Right.
And who is going to handle supplies?
I can forget to do a list for us.
Thanks, pal.
Well, I think we couldn't be any less prepared. I'm proud of you guys.
Talk to your kids about who to call, where to meet, what to pack. Visit ready.gov/kids for tips and information.
Hey, thanks for stopping by. You know, I followed your character since the first episode. I'm a big fan. Big fan.
Thank you.
And listen, your storyline, it makes for incredible TV drama. Thing is, your drug use is very adult content. Too adult for the kids. So I'm gonna have to block you.
Oh, man.
Yeah. Well, have a good one.
You're a nice lady.
This is the Bill Press Show.
Welcome back to the program. My name is Clinton Yates. All right, for the Washington Post. I'm filling in for Bill here on Tuesday, December 29th, 2015. We're talking about the case of Tamir Rice, the young man from Cleveland, Ohio, who was shot dead by a police officer on a playground on video, and neither of the people involved are apparently going to jail. Let's just read from this, Peter, very quickly. CNN story. I'm literally reading from a piece of paper here, and I'm going to break down for you, point by point, why this whole situation is so devastating. If you want to give us a phone call, 866-55-PRESS, 866-55-77377. Tamir Rice's family is accusing the prosecutors of sabotaging the case. A grand jury decides not to indict officers involved in the 2014 shooting death of Tamir. Let's not forget how far away this was. And the officer said he had a pellet gun that officers said looked like a real gun. Quickly, guess what an open carry state is, Peter.
I'm going to guess Ohio.
Correct.
Oh.
And what does that mean, Peter?
That means that if you get registered or get a license, you can carry a gun on your person legally.
Meaning,
legally.
Presumably, the act of owning a gun and handling a gun in public is not illegal.
Yeah.
They said they thought, he was a 20-year-old. 18 up, you can carry a gun in Ohio. So what's this about? You got to shoot somebody who's got a random gun. What's that about? We can stop right there.
Yeah.
You can stop right there in terms of the legality and the sensibility of this whole situation. 866-55-PRESS, 866-557-7377. Carol in Rhode Island, good morning.
Hi, how are you?
I'm okay. How are you?
Good. Just very upset about that little boy.
Yeah.
We're shocked. I mean, this has been happening all over the country for so many years, and now with social media, the cat's been out of the bag for a long time. This racism has to stop. It has to. And Donald Trump is fueling it and feeding it all, and he shouldn't be allowed. This reminds me, if throughout history, what Hitler did over in Germany with the Jews. I'm not Jewish. I'm sorry. I'm not black, and I'm not a racist, and I'm so proud of that.
Thank you, Carol. Appreciate the phone call. When we get back, I will genuinely go into this and explain to you why it sucks to be a black kid in America. I'm Clinton Yates. It's the Bill Press Show.
This is the Bill Press Show.
The average text takes your eyes off the road for nearly 5 seconds. At highway speeds, that's enough time to travel the length of a football field. Stop the texts, stop the wrecks.
Before now, it's been difficult for criminals like us to know which states have loose gun laws. How would a criminal like me know which states permit me to carry loaded guns in their amusement parks, golf courses, or beaches?
I have some violent friends. We all wear leather jackets and scream at women. And we want to find out which states we can buy and sell guns easily.
CrimAdvisor.com. That's the site to find out where it's easiest for felons and fugitives to buy, carry, and even traffic guns.
That's why I love Arizona, where I can go see the beautiful Grand Canyon and carry a loaded gun without even having to get a background check.
You would fail that background check.
I'm sure of it. Now, what about a road trip? What states can I go to fill my trunk with guns and take it back home for my even more dangerous friends?
CrimAdvisor has a list for that.
That's so unreasonable.
Our traffickers' top 10.
Nevada. What happens in Vegas may have to stay in Vegas, but your guns don't. Bring them over to California and sell them.
The market up there is hungry for guns.
I understand that CrimAdvisor.com will tell me which states really cater to us criminals and creeps, but what about the states where we're not so welcome? The ones that don't get us?
I don't even like saying the name of these states, but California, Connecticut, Maryland, and New York all have laws to keep guns out of the hands of people like us.
I want to shoot California so bad.
Boo, California.
Boo, go home. Wow. CrimAdvisor.com has all this information?
Sure does.
CrimAdvisor.com. Plan your perfect getaway. Oh, like TripAdvisor.
Oh.
So, same time next week?
Well, of course. Put away a few bucks, feel like $1 million. For free tips to help you save, go to Feed the Pig.
What the frack?
What the frack?
What the frack?
What the frack?
President Obama, are you fracking kidding me?
Reopen the EPA studies. In Texas, Wyoming, and Pennsylvania.
Fracking pollutes our oceans.
Fracking poisons our water.
Fracking makes climate change worse.
Fracking relies on toxic chemicals that cause cancer.
Ban fracking now.
Ban fracking now.
Go on. Ban it.
Ban fracking now.
Please.
Seen on Free Speech TV and online on TawkrTV. This is the Bill Press Show.
Hey, welcome back to the program. My name is Clinton Yates. I write for the Washington Post. I'm filling in for Bill here on a Tuesday. Coming to you live from Capitol Hill at our studios. We're talking about the case of Tamir Rice. If you want to give us a phone call, 866-55-PRESS, 866-557-7377. If you're watching on TawkrTV or on Free Speech TV, you can see I'm doing a lot of looking at my hands, and I know that's not necessarily the most professional thing with the camera, but quite frankly, I'm a little bit upset. And so I'm just trying really hard not to sort of kind of freak out here, because the scenario that's unfolding in Cuyahoga County in Cleveland is extremely unfortunate. Here's the deal. When you're a young black man in this country and you understand or don't understand the world around you, you were taught one thing. You were taught that your body as it exists, the person whom you are, the thing that you have that nobody else has, is a weapon. You're simply trained to understand that your existence is weaponized. And the reason that is because the criminal justice system is designed to make sure that your freedoms are limited for the sake of others being allowed to be able to do what they want. I can't tell you the amount of times that both my mother and my father warned me about what to do and what not to do when I left the house before I was really old enough to be able to verbalize my own wants and desires. I cannot even explain to you the psychology of what it's like to feel, well, basically complete terror every single time a law enforcement officer arrives in your presence. I'll tell you one story, though, which is that when I was a younger man and I'd be out, and occasionally I wouldn't be able to get a cab. You know, back before the Uber days, back before, the train ran until 3 a.m, I'd be out, hanging out with my friends, being a normal person. And occasionally, you wouldn't be able to get a cab. So against my smarter interests, on multiple occasions, I would ask a police officer, hey, can you help me? And you got to understand, as a black man now, and as a black boy that grew up in D.C. in the 80s and the 90s, asking for help from a police officer is basically an oxymoron in many ways of life. And on one occasion, a couple of occasions, officer said, hey, yeah, sure, I'll give you a ride. And the first time it happened, I was a little surprised. And I was like, whoa, all right, I was actually just asking you to get me a cab, but, I'll take a ride. Officer said, hey, jump in the back. And I said, actually, I'm not going to do that. Officer said, what are you talking about, man? I told you I was going to give you a ride. What's your deal? And I said, look, I've never been arrested. I don't plan on ever riding in the back of a cop car. And I appreciate your kindness, but if I have to ride in the back, I'm not going to take the ride. And the officer was like, what's your deal? And I was like, listen, man, you don't understand. Sitting in the back of a cop car means that on a certain level, you've lost the life lottery and you are part of the 1/3 of the system that has, 1/3 of the population that has gone through the system. And that was a stat that was harped on me for ages. Do not become a statistic. So every single time I've ridden in a cop car, I've ridden in the front seat. It's been like 3 times because I refused to ride in the back. I just said, I'm not doing it. You know what I mean? Unless I'm here against my will, I refuse to do it. And I explained that to him. And he said, well, I got to run your card. I said, run my card, bro. You know what I mean? I'm fine. You know, just
But
don't.
the fact that
Yeah, right. You know what I'm saying? And I wasn't mad about it. I mean, I get it, you know. But again, this is part of the psychology you deal with when you grow up a certain way in this country. 866-55-PRESS, 866-557-7377. Eileen in Ohio, good morning.
Oh, honey, I'm so glad you weren't a loss. You're just so brilliant, and I enjoy listening to you.
Thank you, Eileen.
The issue that I want to put forth is the role of these prosecutors. Aren't they supposed to be representing the interests of the people and not fashion themselves as defense attorneys for police?
You're right.
That's my concern. In every one of these cases, the prosecutor has failed the people. And so that's where I think we need to really deal with this issue. Thanks for listening, honey.
I appreciate it, Eileen. Thank you for the phone call. And she's right. The prosecutor's job is to determine whether or not it makes sense to charge. It is not to defend the police officers against everything else. It's unbelievable how people don't realize how systematically unfair it was to see that guy McGinty talk the way that he did. I mean, he was acting as if it was somehow his job to defend those officers.
Yeah.
Mind you, the officers killed a kid. Like, taking out the actual act. There are people that if you get to this sort of letter of the law versus the spirit of the rule kind of chalk talk about what they are supposed to do, he was so far on the other side of the story that it was disheartening. It was a truly disheartening situation. I want to read you a headline right now. Hey, by the way, if you want to give us a phone call, 866-55-PRESS, 866-557-7377. The headline says this: why white people see black boys like Tamir Rice as older, bigger, and guiltier than they really are. And this is what a lot of people don't understand, is that it's not case by case every time. It's not just, one guy had a lapse in judgment, 2 guys had a lapse in judgment. There is actual science that explains how racism and discrimination filter through and down to the basic psychology of how people operate. I'm going to read a paragraph from this story. To some social science researchers, these characterizations would not come as a surprise. Rice is black, and research published last year by the American Psychological Association found, quote, evidence that black boys are seen as older and less innocent, and that they prompt a less essential conception of childhood than do their white same-age peers. Think about that.
Yeah.
So what I looked like as a 12-year-old boy is considered, because of the world we live in, more dangerous than, say, what Jamie looked like as a 12-year-old boy.
Yeah.
Because of the pathologies that we buy into and we presume make sense. And so when you heard McGinty harping about how, he was big for his age, the hell does that mean, Peter? You're a grown man. I'm pretty sure you were pretty big for your age, too.
I was big for my age, yeah.
And I'm sure people consider that an asset.
Yeah.
And not a danger factor.
Right. And also, definitely not a reason to shoot somebody. I mean, on what planet, in what realm of logic does that make any sense? That, he looked bigger. And?
Yeah. So what? You know, and that was the most unreal part, was that, look, I get it. You know, there are major problems with the law enforcement system in this country. There are major issues with discrimination. There are major hurdles that we have to jump that are well beyond just the way that the criminal justice system operates. There is a hand-to-hand, dinner table to dinner table, lunchbox to lunchbox, Bible to Bible in some places sort of interaction that we have to have. But when you're going on about he wore a size 12 shoe and had a waist 36 and he was warned he shouldn't have been out in the park, what the hell are you talking about? These stay-in-your-place politics, I'm sorry.
This guy stood up on national television
and said this.
Like, and nobody laughed at him to his face. Like, that is a laughable statement. The things that he said multiple laughable statements.
Right.
He said it, and I don't know how he thinks he can say that. It's completely insane. It's utter nonsense.
He had genuinely convinced himself that this made some level of sense. Oh, well, obviously. There's a black kid in the park. He's a little bigger. He's got a fake gun. Oh,
what else are we supposed to do?
Yeah, come on. What are we talking about here? You know? Obviously, we've got to shoot this kid. What kind of world are we living in? Look, my buddy Jamel Bowie, who writes for Slate and is a CBS News analyst, he had an interesting tweet yesterday. He said, and it was obviously facetious, but it had some level of seriousness. He said, maybe we should start giving basketballs to black kids to carry in public so that cops don't think that they're shooting the next LeBron James. It's an interesting point, because the bottom line is that if you are a child of color in America, and this just goes for boys, we haven't even gotten into the whole side of it for women.
Yeah.
People don't see you as the same. 866-55-PRESS, 866-557-3777. Johnny in Florida, good morning.
Yes, good morning. I'm not a person that calls radio stations a lot, but I listen to a lot of talk radio, and I think I have a solution.
Let's hear it.
I live in Jacksonville, Florida, and 5 years ago we were having similar problems like what we're hearing about now that's going around the country now, and it's been going on for decades. So we had a mayoral election 5 years ago, and our city mayor was a guy named Alvin Brown, who was a black man. And I proposed that I put it out there since I'd never heard this before statistically. And after delving in, I found out that a large percentage of our city council members didn't live in Jacksonville, Florida.
Mm-hmm.
A large percentage of our police officers did not live in Jacksonville, Florida, as well as many other civil servants in our city and community. So I proposed the message to, this was before the election, which he won, thank goodness. And I was proud to see that his first legislative agenda when he became mayor was to pass the residential requirements for city employees. And we have not had a questionable police shooting in Jacksonville, Florida in nearly 5 years.
Thank you, Johnny. I appreciate the phone call. That's a good idea. We'll get to it on the other side of the break. We're going to wrap up this Tamir Rice situation. Yeah, I'm pissed off. I'm upset. And as a human being, I'm sad. I'm Clayton Yates, The Bill Press Show.
Get social with Bill Press. Like us at Facebook.com/Bill Press Show. This is The Bill Press Show.
It is possible to read the history of this country as one long struggle to extend the liberties established in our Constitution to everyone in America. In other words, who, according to our laws and culture, gets to be considered a person? The law creates legal personhood, and movements create law and change culture. So, how have the courts passed laws to shape our culture? That history goes way back before Citizens United. 1819, Dartmouth College versus Woodward, Supreme Court case, turned a corporate charter from a government-granted charter to a contract. This ruling gave corporations standing within the Constitution. 1886, Santa Clara County versus Southern Pacific Railroad. Though the court did not rule on corporate personhood, the decision was subsequently cited as a precedent to hold that a private corporation is entitled to the same 14th Amendment rights of due process and equal protection as human beings. This makes it impossible for us to make laws that treat local businesses any differently than giant multinational corporations, even if their business practices are deemed to be harmful to workers, the environment and communities, or if they have a history of violating the law. Hale versus Henkel, 1906. The court granted corporations the Fourth Amendment search and seizure protection. Dodge versus Ford Motor Company, 1919. The Michigan Supreme Court says the business corporation is organized and carried on primarily for the profit of the stockholders. Stockholder primacy is established. The purpose of the corporation, according to the court, is no longer to serve the public good, as it had been. It is now to maximize profit for shareholders above all else. Pennsylvania Coal Company versus Mahon, 1922. Corporations get the Fifth Amendment takings clause, meaning if you pass a regulation that impacts a corporation's ability to make a profit, that is deemed a taking, and they can sue for the right to future profits lost. This creates a chilling effect, and local and state governments become much more hesitant to pass laws in the public interest for fear that corporations can claim loss of potential profits that cities and states will be on the hook to pay. Buckley versus Vallejo, 1976. The Supreme Court rules that spending money to influence elections is protected under the First Amendment, in effect saying that money is speech. Citizens United versus Federal Election Commission, 2010.
Today, the Supreme Court of Chief Justice John Roberts declared that because of the alchemy of its 19th century predecessors in deciding that corporations had all the rights of people, any restrictions on how these corporate beings spend their money on political advertising are unconstitutional.
The court's ruling threatens to undermine the integrity of elected institutions across the nation. It's a rejection of the common sense of the American people.
Streaming live video right now at youtube.com/TawkrTV. That's TAWKR-TV. This is The Bill Press Show.
Welcome back to the program. My name is Clinton Yates. I write for the Washington Post. I want to thank everybody for tuning in here on a Tuesday. Talking about the case of Tamir Rice. And I'm sorry if I've gotten a bit emotional about the situation, but it's a serious one. It's just, quite frankly, a story that as a black person in America, you can relate to a lot. And somebody that was a young black boy that understands what police violence is about, that has affected me personally in a lot of ways. Yeah, I'm going to talk about it. 866-55-PRESS, 866-557-7377. Sherry in Chicago, good morning.
Good morning. I feel your emotion also. I was listening to your story about the not riding in the back of the seat of the cop car. I'm in my 60s, and during my generation, I personally wanted to be a policeman until I saw a cop do an awful thing to a young black kid during the King riots. Shot him in the back of the head, and the boy had his back to him. And that changed my perception of police. And you know, that's 40-some years ago. Yeah. So I know exactly what you're talking about. Present day being as it is, as far as Emmanuel Alvarez and the whole bowl of soup, he controls, and we all know this, he controls what is done in this city. I think he told one alderman, if you want jobs for the kids in your neighborhood, this is what you have to do, you know. So he controls the purse strings, so they're going to have to revamp the whole system. At this point, revamp, just tear it down and start all over again. Don't replace this guy with this guy and this lady with this lady. That's not going to work because they're all tainted. Start from scratch, from the bottom up, and just go up and just do it that way.
Sherry, let me ask you a question. When you first heard the news yesterday about the lack of indictments in the grand jury's decision, what did you think?
Oh, Lord. How many cases are you talking? Which is so many. Which
Tamir Rice is what I'm referring to.
I'm sorry, say again?
Tamir Rice in Cleveland.
Nothing surprises me, truly. Nothing surprises me. In the 16-shot video, that made me cry. But nothing that's going on now surprises me. No indictment, and then they'll drag it on and hope that the black people are too fickle to remember, what's going on and, get wrapped up with their lives again. But nothing surprises me anymore.
Thank you for the phone call, Sherry. Peter.
That's a terrifying place to be in.
Yeah.
That is like a horrifying place to be in, where it doesn't surprise you anymore that this keeps happening. And I'm not saying that she's wrong. I mean,
No, absolutely not. She's wrong. Absolutely not wrong.
Nothing would surprise me at this point. We saw the police officers with Eric Garner choke a man.
Live on camera.
Live on camera. We saw the whole thing go down. Nothing. You know, I mean, this has happened over and over and over and over again. And I've said this before, but who would have thought that the people leading the way on how to handle a situation like this would be South Carolina, where Walter Johnson was shot dead on camera.
Fired everybody immediately.
Fired everybody. Body
Instantly
cameras.
went with body cameras.
That's how you do this.
That's how you do it.
That's how you do it.
Nip it in the butt. 866-55-PRESS, 866-557-7377. Marsha, how are you this morning?
Hey, I'm fine. Thank you. How are you?
I'm getting through it.
I wanted to talk about Sandra Bland because I'm from Illinois, but I'm an old white woman living in central Illinois, and she was from the Chicago area, but she was my daughter. She was 28 years old, going to Texas for a job, and she ends up murdered down there. And my daughter was 28. She left, went to San Jose for a job, and I worried. I worried about her all the time, but I never worried that she could be harmed by a police officer or murdered by one. And I slowly realized that this kind of thing has been going on for years, but I was totally unaware until, there's social media, there's cameras, and I'm horrified.
Thank you, Marsha. I appreciate the phone call. Yeah, I mean, this is the reality that a lot of people live with. I'm going to leave you all with 2 tweets before we move on from this quickly, just so I don't break down and we actually get to a radio show. Ashley C. Ford, at iSmashFizzle, she wrote, every time I hear, quote, he was big for his age, I remember being 12 and grown men licking their lips and asking, what's your mama been feeding you? Her next tweet says, it's so confusing and dangerous to be a black child. To be told your body makes you different, less worthy of innocence and protection. Ugh. That's what it's about, kiddos. All right? I'm Clinton Yates. It's the Bill Press Show. We'll be back.
Follow us on Twitter at BP Show. This is the Bill Press Show.
This is why you took a second job. Why you taught yourself how to fix the plumbing. Why you'll do whatever it takes to keep your home. And that is why we want to help. We are making home affordable, a free government resource that can make paying the mortgage easier. Call 888-995-HOPE today.
So, same time next week?
Well, of course. Put away a few bucks, feel like $1 million. For free tips to help you save, go to Feed the Pig.
Press Show.
Hey, and I'm Clinton Yates. I write for the Washington Post, filling in for Bill here on a Tuesday. We're going to switch gears here a little bit and talk about something that was fun. I saw Star Wars. I've only seen it once, and I saw it in a theater that wasn't very full. It wasn't quite the experience I wanted. I know people that saw it night of, where people stood up and cheered when it ended. I wish I'd done that. I've only seen it once, though. I know people posted on Facebook that say they've seen it twice, thrice, all sorts of times. You know, like, hey, this is my number of times I've seen it, which is cool. I'm fine with that. Peter, you've seen it.
I've seen it twice.
Did you take the kids? Oh, you've seen it twice?
I've seen it twice with the kids. Okay. Yes, indeed. The first time I went, it was a more raucous crowd, for sure.
Was it a dress-up situation for the kids?
No.
Okay.
But there were some people dressed up. There was a lot of cheering. There was a lot of standing up at the end of the movie, and just like a party vibe. Then I saw it a couple days later, and it was still a sort of a party vibe, but it wasn't quite as nutso.
Jamie, you?
Yeah, I saw it the Sunday after it opened. There was a standing ovation in Silver Spring where I saw at the end of the film. I did not dress up personally, but I very much enjoyed it. And I do have to go see it again at some point. But IMAX tickets, $20.
That's fine. I'll buy the tickets. We'll go together. All right. If you haven't seen the movie, see it. It's good. I cried multiple times, including at the end. I'm Clinton Yates. I'm a big Star Wars fan. When we get back, more of the reality of America. It's the Bill Press Show.
This is the Bill Press Show.
One of the most profound movements and one of the first real social movement in American history was all about slavery. And that's labor. And it was about creating a different kind of democracy, different kind of way of thinking about the economy. And I think these battles aren't over. The African American portion of American wealth as a whole is 3% today. And the last time it was 3% was in 1868, 3 years after slavery. African Americans going back to before the Civil War, and the earliest African American spokespersons and writers and leaders like Frederick Douglass and others argued that the fundamental feature of the American economy was dehumanization. And they also argued that you can't have a democratic constitution and an economic system that degrades and exploits people. Many of the radical Republicans who fought for the Civil War and in the Civil War believed the same thing. I think the true intent of the 13th Amendment wasn't just to eliminate chattel slavery. It was to eliminate all forms of economic oppression and create what we would now call living wages for everybody. I think that was the true intent. But these things were overthrown. After the Civil War, there was a counter-revolution, Lincoln's assassination, the destruction of Reconstruction. We got segregation, which wasn't just about making white people feel superior, it was about a cheap labor force, which persisted. The 1963 March on Washington, where everyone sees Martin Luther King's I Have a Dream speech, well, King wasn't head of that march. A. Philip Randolph was. the first black trade union president. The demand of the march was for jobs and freedom. Jobs came even before freedom. That sort of dream of a new kind of economy was tightly connected with thinking about voting rights and a new kind of politics. And when African Americans said we refuse to work as basically semi-slave laborers with no rights and no voting rights and no protections, and my generation said we're not going to do that work that our parents did, then employers started bringing undocumented immigrants into the country to work with no rights and no protections. And when the government said, well, what are we going to do with all these young folks like me who don't want to do this kind of semi-slave work? They didn't reform the economy. They said, let's lock them up. And we got mass incarceration. And so I think all of these things are related to our history. All of these things are part of the challenge of changing the system. And the system connects these things.
How I've been affected by gun violence over the years is through deaths of friends and family members and associates.
When I was 5 years old, I was held at gunpoint in a home invasion.
I've gone to the juvenile detention centers and I've met dozens of young kids, babies really, who have been affected by gun violence.
Directly, I've lost a few friends, but I think why this touches my heart is having children of my own.
You know, I've been at parties where, you know, I had just left the party and, you know, maybe 10, 15 minutes later, you know, I heard that, you know, somebody got shot and didn't make it.
There are a lot of people benefiting off of our pain, and it's time we do something.
I'm here to unload my investment because I think that it's important that we start kind of seeing where our money is going.
It's time to go to your financial advisor and demand that there are no gun investments in your 401k.
Even if you don't have investments, you can still help spread the word.
This is something everyone can do.
So if you push your people that have 401ks, it might be your grandma, it might be your cousin, this effort can make a big impact.
I'm unloading for my loved ones that I lost.
I'm unloading for my 18-year-old self.
I'm unloading my 401k for the future of my children.
I'm unloading.
I'm unloading
for my family and their future.
I'm unloading so that my daughter can grow up in a safe, loving world.
Unload and join the movement.
Use hashtag I'm unloading to pledge your support for gun-free investing.
I grew up in the housing projects of Cleveland. I didn't even know that life could be any better than it was. Education for me has been a way to get away from the agony of what was normal life. I want to be able to impact the community, not just look back on where I came from, but to reach back to where I came from and pull some people up with me. My name is David, and I am your dividend.
The average text takes your eyes off the road for nearly 5 seconds. At highway speeds, that's enough time to travel the length of a football field. Stop the texts, stop the wrecks.
Broadcasting around the nation, on your radio, on your TV, and online. This is the Bill Press Show.
What's up, kiddos? It's me, Clinton Yates. I write for the Washington Post. I'm filling in for Bill here on a Tuesday. December 29th is the date. 2015 is the year. Only got a couple days left in this calendrier, as you would say en français. I want to thank everybody for tuning in live on Free Speech TV or on TawkrTV. Excuse me while I adjust my earpiece for those of you watching. TawkrTV can be seen on YouTube at youtube.com/TawkrTV. And, of course, Free Speech can be seen on DirecTV and on Dish. We're on the Twitter box. At BP Show is the show's handle. My handle is at Clayton Yates. If you want to talk about what we've been discussing today on the program, 866-55-PRESS, 866-557-7377 is the number. Peter Ogburn is here. Good morning.
Hello, Clinton.
How are you?
I'm well.
All right.
Happy holiday week.
You too. Jamie Benson is here. Back.
Really happy to be back. Like, legitimately enjoying sitting in front of this board again.
That's good, man. I'm glad that it's...
Well, I'm glad you're glad.
Hey, nothing's happened yet.
Can you guys work out your issues
I'm happy.
air,
I am
please?
thrilled that Jamie's back. I really am
I'm only
happy.
seeing one or two sparks. I think.
All right. Again, if you call us on that number, Ray Rogers will screen your phone calls. And, of course, Cyprian Bolding is here running the video. So I was in the city of Nueva York.
Oh, nice.
Over the weekend watching the Burgundy and Gold play a little football.
Oh, there you go.
Balls. Smiling. Because they made the playoffs.
Yeah.
So they won. They made the playoffs, and they beat the Eagles, who are craptastic, which is fine. So for those of you listening in the Pennsylvania area, I don't feel bad for you at all. Jamie, what's going on with your Pats? How are things looking?
So I thought that we would
little hot sports talk
be
right quick.
able to just move past this because it's a day after.
No,
there's a game last night. We can talk about that one.
Yeah, no.
I'm not interested in that game.
Not interested.
I have zero interest.
Want to know what's
the
going on
Broncos.
with the Pats? What's the situation? What are your thoughts?
I feel fine.
What's going on with the Pats?
Because
I feel fine.
This weekend we have the Miami Dolphins, who are at the bottom of the AFC East.
Miami Dolphins. Miami Dolphins #1.
I'm also excited that we're not going to take a week off. We're going to have a good contest.
Yeah, who wants that? Who wants a week off?
And who knows? Julian Edelman might come back.
Is that real? Is that possible?
I think he's definitely coming back to the playoffs. He was questionable last week,
Okay.
which I think will mean that he'll also be questionable this week, possibly play, maybe get a couple reps in, warm up for the playoffs.
You look nervous as hell.
I'm not nervous.
You should be nervous.
I mean, listen, it was a bad loss. I watched it with all my high school buddies. It was tough for all
Tell
of
us about that. This is what we're here for. You got back with the squad. You watched the Pats. Did you wear a jersey? And are you a Tom Brady jersey guy? Or do you have a side jersey?
Of course he is.
Of course
I am. And I don't put it on until game time.
Oh, right. Like you're playing in the game?
Yep. And I take it.
Well, you know.
I see where you can find this ridiculous. But
Jamie's the type of guy that refers
made
to
me laugh so
that
much.
was great. Jamie's the type of guy that refers to the Patriots as we.
Are you? Oh my! You're a we guy.
Yeah.
You're a we
guy. Of course
guy.
he is.
Listen, I understand Cyprian came in here yesterday with
We play the Dolphins on Sunday.
Cyprian came in here yesterday with a varsity jacket. Is that right? With all the Super Bowls on it.
Yeah,
so
that's quasi-correct.
Sympathize with me as a huge fan.
That's
of his
fine.
Football team.
Listen, I'm a huge fan as well, but I also know I'm not on the team.
Yeah.
What are your plans to watch the game on Sunday?
I had not made plans to watch the game. I'm actually looking forward more to Wednesday night, Kobe Bryant's last game in Boston, Lakers, Celtics.
That's fair.
I'll be watching that with my buddy Julian, who's in town from LA.
That's fair. All right. Well, like I said, the old skinnies going to the playoffs, hosting a game, Peter.
Yeah.
I might make the trip to FedEx.
And they can actually win that game.
That's a brazen lie. There's no chance I'm going to that.
Don't go to FedEx.
I hate that place.
Don't go to FedEx.
Anyway,
I
all
went
right.
once and
All
never
right.
again.
Got more to get to. Forget about football, but first, Peter Rogers.
This is the Full Court Press.
Just a couple of other stories making news. Let's go to the movies. Because there's a new list from Forbes that shows which actors and actresses are worth the money.
Ooh.
Right? Ooh. Number one on the list. Anybody want to guess?
Worth the money? Is it a man or a woman?
It is a man at number one.
Tom Hanks.
Tom Hanks is not in the top five. Number one.
Absolutely not worth the money.
Oh, is that a Tom Hanks shot right there?
That's just he just makes grandfather movies these days.
He does make kind of grandpa movies these
days. A lot of grandpas out there that are going to see him.
I don't disagree.
You see my sweater? All right, I'm here for grandfather movies.
Did you see his cardigan?
I wore a cardigan yesterday.
I thought you were the cuts of the millennials. That's what you look like today.
Yeah, but that's the fun bit. Is that it looks like one, it actually is the other.
Number one on the list is Chris Evans, Captain America himself. For every dollar that he is paid, he brings back $181.80. Now, this is partially because Marvel is known for underpaying anyone not named Robert Downey Jr. on their movies, but he brought in a lot of money, not only with the Avengers, but also with Captain America. Interesting tidbit, the rest of the top five, all women.
Yeah,
all
makes
women,
sense.
of course, because of the gender
Come on, let's run through
disparity.
them. Give it
Mila
to us quickly.
Kunis is number 2 on the list, $87.30 for every dollar paid.
Because of Ted.
Because of Ted, that's a big part of it. Scarlett Johansson, $84.90.
I would have thought she would have been
$1.
above Mila Kunis, but
I would have thought so too,
Yeah.
but again, Jamie mentioned Ted. That brought in so much money for them.
Right.
So,
All right.
congratulations to those
Very
guys.
cool.
Go get them and maybe pay them a little bit more money next time. Yep. The music world says farewell to Lemmy Kilmister. Lemmy, God, the bass player frontman for Motorhead, died yesterday at the age of 70. He had a very aggressive, quick form of cancer, the band announced, and it did not take long for him to lose that battle. Interesting story about Lemmy I read a couple years ago in an interview. He did so much speed in his life that in his later years, he had to take speed just to keep a regular heartbeat. Wow. That he took speed and it didn't touch him. He just took speed to basically keep his heart going.
That's scary.
Terrifying.
Terrifying. His death was a big... Listen, he was one of those guys who I knew of, but was not a huge fan of, but...
Same.
Kaboom on the social media yesterday.
Look, Lemmy is for me, right? Because I used to play in bands, and I play bass and I play guitar. Lemmy was a bass player. I went and got a bass just like Lemmy's, a Rickenbacker bass with that clef at the top. Motorhead was not a good band. But
I'm glad you can admit that.
But I love them.
Right.
Because they were loud and he couldn't sing. He just sort of grumbled and growled. But as like a young person, I knew that we could play music that sounded like Motorhead.
Yes.
So we did a lot of Motorhead covers.
It's an achievable goal.
It was absolutely same. I mean, like it's the same thing with the Ramones, right?
Yeah.
Ramones is a terrible band, but you can play the Ramones.
Right.
We can play Motorhead.
Okay.
And Lemmy was just a total character, so it's a bummer to lose Lemmy.
Rest in peace to Lemmy.
Big deal in music. And Donald Trump may not want this endorsement, but he did get one from David Duke. Former head of the Ku Klux Klan, the Grand Wizard. Now,
the Grand Wizard.
Yeah, the Grand Wizard.
That's what I like to call him.
He actually said, this is a quote, "As far as I can see, according to the candidates that are out there right now, I think Donald Trump is head and shoulders above the rest. I don't agree with everything he says. He speaks a little more, actually a little bit more radically than I talk, and I think that's positive." So he catches a hot endorsement from David Duke, who says he's a little more radical than he is. The former Ku Klux Klan Grand Wizard.
And those poll numbers keep going up.
Yeah. And they'll keep going up.
Wow. All right. Thanks, Peter.
You got it.
Speaking of Mr. Trump, he's, saying he's in the news is like saying the sky is blue, but he specifically addressed Hillary Clinton, and a couple different things have come up about Hillary that I want to talk about, which is this notion of sexism. First of all, Bill Clinton, former POTUS, Slick Willie the God, as he's known in some neighborhoods, and by some neighborhoods I mean mine, he told the Iowa Des Moines Register about Trump, he said, quote, "I really deplore the tone of his campaign. I don't know that he has any boundaries. His bigotry, his bluster, his bullying have become his campaign." He went on to say, "It's not the first time he's demonstrated a penchant for sexism." And obviously, Bill is referring to Donald's comments about Bill's wife, Hillary, on the campaign trail, because Donald has been, he said all sorts of things, one of which is his comments about her and that old commercial.
Remember her commercial about the phone ringing at night? Guess what? She didn't answer it. She didn't answer it. Did you see where the ambassador sent 700 or 500 calls in, emails, everything? And yet she spoke to a friend many times.
Now, what he said there is one thing, but I want you, we got one more clip here where we discuss the emails, and I want you to listen to the tone. The tone of his voice is the tone of a child who is telling on a friend he has invited over for a sleepover on his own parents, because he wants the kid to get in trouble with somebody else's parents on his own home turf.
What she did with the emails is criminal, according to every single person that I've met that knows this stuff. And not just in one, and Benghazi also, although Benghazi was different. Benghazi, she was too lazy to answer phone calls.
He can't even finish a complete thought without getting out the next, yeah, but you did this, yeah, but you did this, yeah, but you did this. And it's like, listen, man.
I'm telling.
What is wrong with you? You know what I'm saying? She was an actual Secretary of State by the by. You know what I'm saying? That requires, legitimate diplomatic discussions with actual heads of state. Donald Trump knows nothing about this at all. At all. And he's trying to address this notion of sexism. Meanwhile, the guy is out here buying up or selling off pageants. You know, that's still a thing in 2015. Meanwhile, he's making ridiculously awkward comments about his own daughter and what she looks like. Donald Trump doesn't even understand the basic concept of something I say all the time. Male privilege is the first privilege. Yeah. And he doesn't even get that the comments that he makes are rooted in a notion of obvious sexism, calling people pigs, calling people ugly, as if this has any bearing on their value to society. He doesn't get it at all.
For him to be throwing things around the way that he does and to understand that they're sexist, he would have to understand what sexism is.
Right.
And he doesn't.
He doesn't at all.
He doesn't even come close.
He doesn't at all. And that's one of the scariest things too, because one person who, and sort of to buttress this point, I don't want to just sort of jump on the GOP side, because Carly Fiorina, obviously a woman, said a couple things about this as well. And I actually think that her points about how Hillary reacts to sexism are interesting because, she's a woman that came up in the business world in the 80s, which, not where you want it to be necessarily. You know what? I take that back. It's not that it's not where you want it to be. What I'm going to say is that it was a very hostile environment. Not that that's necessarily changed.
Right.
However, it's something that we know after having had a certain generation of women come through and tell us. We are very aware and we understand that it has been laid bare how bad those environments were, and it's something we understand. Fiorina said that Hillary calls everybody a sexist, whether they are or not, and she said that she called Bernie Sanders a sexist because he criticized her. That's an interesting critique because it gets back to what you were saying, Peter. You have to know what sexism is in order to really be able to identify it, and this is one place where I'm going to go ahead and trust Carly on this. If she thinks that she can delineate, if she knows that she can delineate what is a sexist critique versus a non-sexist critique, I can trust her. And that's a fair and reasonable discussion. Not that I'm the one to make that decision, but in my mind, that's a fair and reasonable discussion to have from her. And I'd be interested to hear what you think.
I'm sure she knows what she's talking about. I'm sure she's seen her fair share of sexism, Carly Fiorina. The Bernie Sanders thing that she brought up is interesting because I don't know that was outright sexism, right? And the example that she's using is at the debate talking about gun control. Bernie says that he could get something done, whereas Hillary just runs around shouting about it or runs around screaming about it or something like that. Which some people say, that's just not how you talk to a woman. You don't tell a woman that you can't get things done. All you could do is run around.
It's a devaluing of your own ability to communicate.
And I understand what Bernie was trying to say, but I don't know that was outright sexist. But I also think that it's not the worst thing in the world to have someone say, "Hey, just check yourself."
Yeah.
When you say that, right?
Because he probably wouldn't have said that to a man.
Right. And that doesn't mean that it was sexist, and it doesn't mean that he is a sexist person, but it means that every now and then it's okay, even if you identify yourself as a male feminist, for a woman to say, just
chill, fam.
Yeah, check yourself just real quick. Right? I know you're on the right side here, but just, you can't be saying that. So the Hillary thing is interesting in the sense that after Trump recently attacked her, Jeb Bush almost came to her defense, right? Jeb Bush came and said, Donald Trump is vulgar and he's saying these things and he shouldn't say these things, which is where he should have stopped. But he went on to say, and besides, we all know Hillary Clinton loves to play the victim. And when someone says something like that, you're just giving her fuel to add to the fire, and she's going to run around and call everybody sexist because of these things. You can't give her those opportunities. So blaming her for
who she
calling
is.
someone out
Yeah.
for being sexist. Okay? It's a mess.
Here's what Donald said as well. He said, we all have to fight fairly. She's playing the woman's card, and it's like, give me a break. The old woman's card.
Yeah.
Hey, I was born this way.
That's right.
Let me just
Right.
play that card because the natural order of the world is what straight white dudes want to do. Incorrecto, kiddos. That's not how it works. It's not playing a card to be who you are. It's ridiculous. I've said it before. I'll say it again. The first privilege is male privilege. It is a much bigger hurdle to get a woman in the White House than it is to get a person of color who is a man in the White House. And that's just really how it is.
Yeah.
I'm Clinton Yates. We'll be back.
Your progressive headquarters for the 2016 election. This is The Bill Press Show.
Officer, were you the one who arrested me? Gonna shake my hand? So I got invited to host a vigil called Carry the Names. And that's what they were doing, carrying the names of the people who were victims of deadly police force. Michael Brown, Eric Garner, that guy Gurley. I got a motion from Dragonfly from Stop Shopping Choir, and I started preaching. I preached up a storm as best I could, but about a minute and a half into my sermon, the place was flooded with police, Homeland Security, National Guard, state troopers, and I was pushed over and handcuffed so fast, down in the jail, down in the basement. Before you know it, I was out the door, put in prison overnight. The next morning, I'm in court. The same thing happens. I'm just rushed out of there. Then our lawyer, Wiley Steckler, gives me this iPhone. And there, in black and white, in the Gothamist, a popular paper, is this charge by Adam Lisberg, the MTA law enforcement spokesperson for this grand place. His quote is that I, Reverend Billy, physically attacked a police officer. Unbelievable. The feeling of being robbed of my work and life and identity, just the fiction. I did not touch anybody. I did not look. I know how to do this. I'm trained in nonviolence. I did not do anything. It was right here. It was right here. It happened right here. I was simply arrested while I was speaking and taken away, and that's it. The cold feeling in my city, the city that I love, that city spokespersons whose salary I pay for with my taxes, that they would say this. I could just feel the rending apart of the community, that we are not that close. We're not. They are willing to say this, and they think that they can just say anything about anybody and get away with it. So we have something in the Church of Stop Shopping called radical forgiveness. Amen?
Cops and bankers love their children.
I forgive the police.
We gotta love them too. Cops and bankers love their mothers.
But I'll stay radical.
Mothers love their brothers. We gotta love them too.
But we'll wake up every morning forgiving each other, reaching out, touching, telling stories, having humor, being in a community together, sharing our children, sharing the streets, sharing the climate, being in this city together. But forgiving each other, being grateful to each other, helping each other out, living together, living together.
I got a daughter just turned 4. What do we do in the superstore? What do we do with the blood and the gore? The water's rising through our door. Love our children too. Love our children too.
Amen. Earth-alleluia.
We were saying backstage that you want to come back as an Emmanuel child. You're take your young people on fascinating trips around the world, headed these holidays to Cuba. Why?
Well, first of all, thanks for telling everybody what I'm going to do with my family. You had a private conversation with me, and now you decided to make that public.
This is the Bill Press Show.
Yes, everybody, it's public now, Ron. We all know what you were doing. You know why? Because your city's burning down and you had to come back early anyway. My name is Clinton Yates. I write for the Washington Post, filling in for Bill. What do you think of that clip, Peter?
I think it's hilarious.
It's pretty hilarious.
I can't stop laughing.
That's Mike Allen from Politico, who basically told the world where Rahm Emanuel was going with his family. He was going to Cuba over winter break or whatever. But as we discussed on the program yesterday, the situation in Chicago has gotten out of control. The police shot a kid on a bridge and then later shot another child in his home or on the stairs of his home and shot another woman who was innocent and had nothing to do with it. And Rahm is coming back. Not that he's going to do anything.
No.
Rahm is not really in the business of doing that when it comes to this sort of thing. But what do you think? What are the optics here? What's the optics grade for you on Rahm having to return from vacation in order to deal with it?
Rahm thinks that this is good optics, right? But it's not good optics.
It's not.
I mean, he had to get this situation under control before he went anywhere, right?
Right.
They have
That's the bigger
real
issue,
problem. They have a real problem before the Cuba trip, before the holidays, before Thanksgiving, all that, right? Chicago's got a bigger problem. So the optics of taking a jaunt to a place that not everybody can go, by the way,
right?
The optics, as they say, are not good.
Welcome back, Rahm. This is America. Chicago is your city. People want your help, man. Do the right thing. I'm Clinton Yates. It's the Bill Press Show.
This is the Bill Press Show.
I have run these canyons for 6 million years. I have traveled from the Rocky Mountains to the deserts, through scorching heat and freezing cold, from the land of the dinosaurs to fields of food.
I lend my hand to 7 states, 2 countries, 9 national parks,
and 36 million people across an arid West.
I am not the strongest or the largest, but I am the hardest working.
People love me.
My playfulness,
My beauty.
my power.
My life. But I don't think I can offer any more.
I am tired.
I am tired,
tapped,
and tied. Of the hundreds of major rivers in the world, I am one of the few who no longer kisses the sea.
Battles to harness my soul have been won and lost. Use me wisely, and I will sustain you.
Use me like you have, and I will break. My name is Red. The Grand River Red. The American Nile.
The Canyon Maker. I am the Colorado River.
And I am the most endangered river in America.
So, I'm kind of new here, but I've noticed a trend. My human does this funny thing where she goes around and gets all my toys, and then she hides them in that basket by the door. But it's always the same basket, and it's always in the same place. And then she acts so surprised when I find them, but, she's putting them in the same basket. Again. It's like, hello, that's where you put it last time. You were the worst at hide and go seek.
The most valuable morning radio show, according to The Nation magazine. This is The Bill Press Show.
Welcome back to the program. My name is Clinton Yates, filling in for Bill here on a Tuesday. I write for The Washington Post. The man on the line is a national reporter for The Washington Post. His name is Wesley Lowery. You can follow him on Twitter at Wesley Lowery. Good morning, Wes.
Hello, Clinton.
How are you?
I'm doing all right, hanging in there. How are you doing this morning?
I'm okay. I've been discussing this case a lot, just sort of from a personal standpoint as a black man in America. But for you, as a journalist and a man from Cleveland, Ohio, talk to me a little bit about what it was like to hear that news come down from a reporter standpoint and a personal standpoint yesterday afternoon.
Of course. So two different standpoints there. First off, it was kind of long-awaited. The Tamir Rice shooting happened what feels like an entire chapter ago in this story, right? Yeah. So Tamir Rice got shot back when we were still talking about whether or not Darren Wilson was going to get charged. It was back when we were still talking about whether or not the officers who killed Eric Gardner were going to be charged. It was before Walter Scott. It was before Sandra Bland. It was before Freddie Gray. Tamir Rice was killed a long time ago. And so this was kind of something that had been floating out there in the atmosphere, had been hanging over the city of Cleveland, hanging over the nation for a long time. And because of that, it kind of gave a lot of people, one of the reasons I think this story resonates is that, this is a child. Tamir Rice is a very sympathetic victim of a police shooting. And a lot of people had said, well, they're taking so long, maybe there's a chance you're going to charge the officer. It's taking so long, let's see what's going to happen, even though it had been clear for a long time that these officers probably weren't going to be charged. And so as a reporter, narratively, this was the closing of a chapter, frankly, where the rest of the case is closed a long time ago. But it also spoke kind of to this idea that even in, some of these kind of perfect victim scenarios, the reality is the way the system's set up now, these officers don't get charged in these shootings.
Yeah. You're from that area. Is there anything that, for the national audience, maybe we should know about where specifically this happened in terms of, I don't want to say the social politics and get too far into that, but, where in Cleveland this happened or, sort of what that sort of police force is typically involved with?
Of course. And so a few things. The first thing is that, so this neighborhood where the shooting took place is on the west side of Cleveland, in a largely black neighborhood, although the west side is typically kind of the whiter side of Cleveland. Most of black Cleveland lives on the east side. This is kind of the immediate west side, just out of downtown, where you do have some poorer black neighborhoods, as well as just some poorer and working class white neighborhoods as well. The Cleveland police have a relatively notorious relationship with a lot of these communities. Right after Tamir Rice had been shot and killed, the Department of Justice returned its patterns and practices investigation, and basically it concluded the Cleveland police far too often are using their guns in situations when they don't need to be doing them. The other thing is, Cleveland is a Midwestern kind of Rust Belt city that got hit hard with the recession. One of the things that the prosecutor said yesterday was that at the time Tamir Rice was killed, Cleveland police officers were not trained in how to deal with gunshot wounds. They didn't even have first aid kits in their patrol cars. And it speaks to, which to me was kind of like striking, to think that you'd have like a first responder in 2014 in a major city showing up to something without a first aid kit. And so it kind of speaks in some ways to the reality of that department, a department that feels as if it's understaffed, that it's under-resourced in a city that has gone through a recession. And so therefore, has seen some upticks in crime, both violent crime and property crime. And those are kind of some of the contextual things that go into creating, what we see here.
Tim McGinty is the guy who's now in the spotlight as the Cuyahoga County prosecutor. Is there anything we should know about him? Is there any sort of history in terms of how he handled this, in terms of who he is, that you think plays into America's understanding of what's going on in this case?
So McGinty is a lefty Democrat who got elected as a reformer. This is a guy who got elected saying, "Listen, I'm not afraid to clash with the police unions." He's a very, he's like a tough on crime type guy, but typically that has also meant tough on crime by either other elected officials and also by the police. He was this guy who came in saying, I'm willing to clash with the police unions. I'm willing to go hard at criminals. And so he came in with broad support, which is very quickly kind of whittled in a lot of different spaces for that exact reason. So in a case like Tamir Rice, the police union is upset with McGinty already. They're upset with him because he brought charges for Michael Brillo, the Cleveland police officer, in the 137 bullets case, the death of two unarmed black Clevelanders after a
car
massive
backfired.
chase. And the car backfired, and then there's this massive Cleveland police chase, ends in a school parking lot with one officer standing under the hood of the car, firing through the windshield and killing these two people. The Cleveland police were outraged that he brought charges in that case. They were upset in this case that this took so long, that he was releasing, it seemed, kind of piecemeal pieces of evidence. Meanwhile, the civil rights community, a lot of the black residents, as well as Tamir Rice's family, was upset for the same reasons, that it took so long, that it felt like he was releasing pieces of evidence throughout it. And so McGinty kind of comes out of this having not won with anyone.
There is the legal side to this, and by the way, we're talking with Wesley Lowery, national reporter for the Washington Post. You can follow him on Twitter at Wesley Lowery. There's the legal side to this, but there's also the civil side, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
Where does that go from here in terms of that, in terms of potential lawsuits or whatever else may be to come?
And so my understanding is that there's already a pending lawsuit, which is, in almost all of these cases, this is what happens. Civil suits are the means through which any of these families receive some measure of justice. The officers are almost never charged. The DOJ often opens investigations, as it has in this case, federal investigations. But the standard for a federal civil rights charge in a police shooting, is not something that's going to be met very likely in this shooting. And so a civil lawsuit is the place where you might see some action. The family would sue for wrongful death, saying that, even it was not a crime, our son should not have been killed. And very typically, cities settle these types of lawsuits because they do have some liability here.
Right. Wesley, you're from Cleveland. Your people, obviously, forget about sources, obviously reacted to this. What was not your reaction, but what did you hear from your fam and your friends just on when the news came out?
So I was hearing two things. I was hearing a lot of people who were very upset. Like I said, this is a case that is very heartbreaking. Whether you think the officer should have been charged or not, he's a 12-year-old boy playing with what we now know to be a toy near his house, and so it was very, it felt like a gut punch for a lot of people. People were very, kind of scared about what this means, especially Cleveland again, and which is currently in a moment where the city feels like it's going through some type of policing reform. The Justice Department's there negotiating with the police department, trying to, bring in some reforms. There was this feeling that, and among a lot of people I talk to who I'm close with, that there's a lot of unknowns about what happens next, that this was kind of an emotional release. And now, where do we go from here? the other thing is that, Cleveland is a very, the police force is very, insular and very familial. My actually college roommates from a Cleveland police family. And so as I watched, so I know a ton of Cleveland police officers. And as I watched kind of some of their Facebook statuses and, got text messages from some of those folks, it was this idea that, there was a sense of relief among a subsection. Now, you have to remember that in all these cases, you very often, the police forces are thousands of people, hundreds and thousands of people who have families, largely who are sympathetic to the officers in these cases. And so, I did see some measured posts from some of those folks, people saying, hey, this is like a tragedy, but, there wasn't a crime committed here. One thing a lot of people seized on, one way or the other, either it outraged them or they took relief in this, was Prosecutor McGinty saying that, this enhanced video shows indisputably that, that Tamir Rice was reaching into his waistband to pull this toy weapon out. A lot of the police a lot of people who were more sympathetic to the police said, look, we've only seen this grainy video, and if the prosecutor is saying that he must have been reaching for it, that's consistent with the officer saying. And so they were it was one of those things where it was like, hey, everyone should have waited. On the other hand, like I said, a lot of people were upset that the prosecutor would declare this because we've seen this video with our own eyes. And I think a lot of people feel like, no, this wasn't indisputable, that it was still a blurry video, that, what exactly happened here. And so, like I said, no one was quite satisfied yesterday.
Thank you, Wesley.
Anytime.
All right, man. It's good to talk to you. That's Wesley Lowery. He's a national reporter for the Washington Post. His team is doing great work documenting how police officers deal with America and gunshots specifically. The FBI isn't even doing that work. That's what he's here for, as is his squad, as is the Washington Post. I'm Clinton Yates. I write for that paper. This is the Bill Press Show. We'll be back.
Connect with the Bill Press Show on Twitter. Follow us at BP Show and tweet using the hashtag WatchingBP. This is the Bill Press Show.
At Earth Justice, we defend the environment in the courtroom. Join our fight. When you take a seat, you take a stand. Earth Justice, because the Earth needs a good lawyer.
Sometimes when I'm walking down the street, I'm not necessarily looking out and seeing all these water-wasting lawns and people that aren't as connected to their neighbors and their lives as they could be. I'm walking down the street looking, going, edible oases, rainwater, fed landscape, and just looking at the possibility of these sort of landscapes up and down the streets of neighborhoods and communities all across this world. Small actions do ripple and they add up and they have a cumulative impact. And so when you're building upon your small mindful actions, you have the confidence and the ability to take on something a little bit greater. So that could be nice. This, in the context of where we're at as a planet with climate change and these really big issues and people that are more disconnected and less skilled than ever, it becomes even more amazing and powerful how much of a solution this is to design these ecological gardens and to come together with shared vision and shared voice. There's never been a time where your choices have mattered more. Doing something as simple as us transforming a landscape creates a model that anybody could look at far and wide, and you're sharing food and connecting and building skills together in your own neighborhood. It's a richer way to live in normal times, but in the new normal of climate change and erratic weather and economic upheaval, it becomes essential. Whether it's me, you, Gandhi, Che, MLK, Willy Wonka, whoever, past, present, or future, the power of our daily actions is all that we have. You know, and like our community said, give me a place to stand and a lever long enough and I'll move the world. And that's what those simple actions do. They move the world every day.
Seen on Free Speech TV and online on TawkrTV. This is the Bill Press Show.
Welcome back to the program. My name is Clinton Yates. I write for the Washington Post. I want to thank everybody for tuning in here on a Tuesday. It's December 29th. Only got a couple days left to go in 2015. Got to flip those pages on the calendar pretty soon. When was the last time you thought about Ben Carson? Peter?
It's been a while.
Been a while.
It has
been a while.
It's
banger, by the way. Stain. Great song. He is... what happened to him?
He was flirting with the number one spot in the national polls there for a minute. Remember those
I would
days?
say he was doing a little bit more than flirting with.
Yeah,
there
no,
was some heavy
there was
some heavy petting. You know what
absolutely.
I mean? Like, absolutely. I mean, he was in the discussion.
Yeah.
And he has totally disappeared.
You know, it's funny, this election cycle has been so weird because, you know, the last time around, everybody sort of got their shot, right?
Yeah.
Herman Cain led, Michelle Bachmann led.
999.
Rick Santorum won Iowa, right? So, like, there was some goofiness last year. And this year, or the last cycle, this year has sort of been similar in the sense that Carly had her surge and then now she's back to, you know, single digits. But Ben Carson actually had some sustained popularity there for a little while. And you know what I think really when it all started to fall apart for him?
What's that?
Was when it became apparent that he had no idea what he was talking about on foreign policy. And then he had one of his advisors, one of his team,
came out and said
an interview with his quote saying he doesn't know about foreign policy. He doesn't care about foreign policy. Like, we have to cram him with foreign policy knowledge, and even still, it doesn't work. And so his people at the time said, like, oh, well, this is obviously garbage. This is from someone who...
Right, but
then he didn't prove anybody wrong.
He didn't come back out of the corner.
Exactly.
As they say. And,
exactly.
What's interesting about that is, listen, I don't know that anybody ever really thought, and this is my thing on a lot of these GOP candidates, Trump included, I don't know that anybody really thought that he ever really wanted to be president.
No.
He was there to build the Ben Carson brand. But what I think at this point is not only is the building of his brand sort of maybe fizzled. Not only has his presidential campaign fizzled out, I think the building of his brand has fizzled out as well.
Oh, 100%.
Like, I mean, do you know anybody that bought that guy's book?
Look.
No. I mean, I saw him at National Press Club.
Oh, right.
A vaunted institution, as we like to call it here in D.C. And by vaunted institution, I mean I love the place. And you know, he was on the podium railing against the press, which was weird because, like, hello, you're at the press club. This is bizarre. But after that, the whole foreign policy thing came out, and it was just poof, gone.
Mike Huckabee's running for president because it's good for business.
Yes.
Ben Carson was running for president because it's good for business. A lot of these guys are doing it, and gals. Let's be perfectly honest, right? But Ben Carson could have gotten out the moment he started to slip.
Yeah. And it would have been fine.
And
he could have moved on to the discussion circuit.
He would have been get paid bank to go and do speeches. He would have been on TV all the time. But now he is a joke.
He's a failure.
Yeah, a complete and total failure.
Stayed in the pool too long, man.
That's what happens.
Do you want to know how many honorary degrees Ben Carson has?
Oh, my God.
Take a guess. Jamie Benson, do you know how many honorary degrees he has? It is higher than the number of cerebellums in Botswana he's worked on, by the way. That's a joke.
Say, I'm going to go with 7. Lucky 7.
I'm going to say Baker's dozen.
You guys are way low.
Really?
I
was afraid I'd be
way low.
Wow.
How about 67?
Holy cow.
Let me ask you this. What do you own 67 of in your entire life? Think about it. Think about something you have 67 of. Forget about honorary degrees. Any item in the world. Are there 67 forks in your house?
Maybe like grains of rice.
Yeah, right,
in my
maybe.
cupboard.
Grains of rice. I might have 67 pairs of Vans.
Marshmallows.
I might have owned 67 pairs of Vans in my life.
Yeah.
Possibly.
I haven't ordered 67 pairs of shoes.
There's no way you have. Are there 67 pairs of shoes in your entire home?
I haven't.
No.
No.
He has 67 honorary degrees. He's a smart guy. From
Look, he's the most brilliant idiot we've ever seen. I mean, everybody gets mad at me when I say this, but
No,
the
I
guy's
hear
a
you.
certified genius.
Yes.
Right? You can't take that away from him.
I mean,
I'm
he
not going to go
once-
full Trump and say, yeah, as a doctor, he was okay.
Right.
He was an amazing doctor.
Yes. And Cuba Gooding played him in a movie.
Yeah.
And
But
he once made a spine out of matchsticks and barbed wire.
Have you ever gazed upon?
I'm just kidding. Okay, these are stupid jokes that we're telling.
No, they're the greatest.
No, but it's an interesting case because I guess the reason why I bring all this up is that Ben Carson didn't need to be president to regain his role as an influential person in American, not just politics, but American social discourse. But he overshot the mark.
Yeah.
Overshot the runway by a lot, and
Yeah.
now he's a non-guy. And every time you see him on TV, he looks like a dude reaching after a car that's speeding away from him, and he's gone.
His presence on TV with his eyes closed.
Well,
like all the time. Like when Will Ferrell came back and did the George W. Bush on Saturday Night Live,
Yeah.
his critique of Ben Carson wasn't even a joke, and it was so perfect. He says, and Ben Carson, I can't even hear the guy when he talks. It's like, that's not a joke, but it's hilarious
Very
because
true.
it's so true.
It's very true. All right. Well, when we get back, we're going to discuss what the president's going to be doing soon with some people.
Yeah.
It's a fun one. God, I wish somebody would take me to the White House. Rap Squad's Jamie.
Oh, wow.
It's Clinton Yates.
Ooh.
That's me. It's the Bill Press Show.
Get social with Bill Press. Like us at facebook.com/Bill Press Show. This is the Bill Press Show.
All right. I know this isn't any fun to talk about, but we should. Okay. So who's going to do what?
I'll pack the dead batteries.
Great.
I'll only put what I don't need into a duffel bag.
Perfect. That's totally unhelpful.
No problem.
Meanwhile, I will try to comfort everyone by speaking in a calm voice.
And I'll try to get the generator going without any gas.
Oh, let's not forget the cell phones, which probably won't work.
Right.
And who is going to handle supplies?
I can forget to do a list for us.
Thanks, pal.
Well, I think we couldn't be any less prepared. I'm proud of you guys.
Talk to your kids about who to call, where to meet, what to pack. Visit ready.gov/kids for tips and information.
A few years ago, plastic bag waste in our city came to a tipping point. It was clear. We had a bag problem. My department was tasked to reduce plastic bag consumption. We needed to come up with ways to change human behavior. So we asked ourselves, what do people really hate?
Yep.
Getting punched in the stomach. Preliminary studies showed that the consequences weren't severe enough to warrant behavioral change.
Actually, can I get that double bagged?
So we thought, what do people hate more than getting punched in the stomach? Kissing Helga.
Hey, big boy.
People didn't find her so offensive after all, so we had to get creative.
How many bags? Okay, now, pour this ice water down your pants.
We tried everything.
Eat this rat. Defuse this bomb.
Even fighting your clone. After blowing through millions of dollars of government funds on research, I came up with a brilliant idea.
Why don't we just charge 5 cents per bag?
That's a stupid idea.
Would you like a bag?
Yes.
5 cents a bag.
5 cents? 5 cents? Do I still have the option of getting punched?
Honestly, I don't know how everyone else missed it.
Why don't you just get a reusable bag?
The average text takes your eyes off the road for nearly 5 seconds. At highway speeds, that's enough time to travel the length of a football field. Stop the texts, stop the wrecks.
2015. This is usually the part where we talk about what old POTUS does, old Pote does on his daily schedule, because he is in Hawaii eating shaved ice with his family. We don't really know. But we do know this, Peter. What do we know?
We know he's eating more than shaved ice. We know what he had for dinner last night.
All right, give us a clue. Vegetarian or no? Is there a meat?
There is a meat involved. There are meats.
Oh, meats. So he had a walking around ham?
He went to no walking around ham. He went to dinner with First Lady Michelle Obama. This is according to the pool report last night. I should say at 3:36 a.m. Eastern time,
which is Hawaii. What's that? That's about 7 Hawaii time?
I'm gonna guess.
I don't really do Hawaii time.
I don't do the Hawaii time.
Right. Some people do that. I don't do that.
So they went to Alan Wong's, a restaurant in Honolulu. Oh, here we go. At 10:30 p.m. is what time they left local time.
A late
dinner.
Late guy.
Late vacation
All right,
dinner.
Playboy.
So they had the lobster lasagna. I don't know about that. I don't know about your whole
absolutely
lobster,
not.
Yeah,
the whole lobster and cheese thing.
Mixing.
I don't love
really,
that.
Yeah, that's weird.
Lobster lasagna, and they had macadamia nut, coconut crusted lamb chops.
Not bad.
Let's come in full blast with that,
Okay.
Jamie. There you
All
go.
right.
I'm not here for the coconut crusted anything. I don't like coconut. So coconut tastes like suntan lotion. So I don't want it on my lamb chops. I don't want it in my lobster lasagna.
All right. Well, they're going to have the Canadian Prime Minister, Justin Trudeau, and his wife for state dinner in March 26th. This show is completely gone off the rails. The year's going to end soon. Thank God I'll be here to summon you through on the calendar. I'm Clayton Yates, and guess what?
This is the Bill Press Show.
The hardest moments for me is when I'm laying awake in the middle of the night and I'm thinking about all the times I made a pitcher of Kool-Aid with the water, or I boiled a pot of corn or potatoes with the water. Those thoughts just stick with me in the middle of the night, and I feel horrible as a mom that I didn't know that something was wrong, but how could I have known? There's no way I would have known.
The spill at Dan River happened when a drainage pipe that ran underneath an ash basin and dam collapsed, sucking out 6 decades of waste and spewing gunk directly into the river.
My husband and I just kind of looked at each other like, should we be concerned? We live right next to an ash pond, and this was coal ash spilling into the Dan River, and we learned at that point all of the toxins that were included in coal ash.
A situation like Dan River, where there was a catastrophic disaster, gets people's attention, but the fact is that these coal ash pits have been leaking and poisoning people's groundwater and the state's surface waters for decades. Coal ash is the residue left behind after coal is burned in a coal-fired power plant. A large coal-fired power plant can burn 10 million tons of coal a year. When the organic matter in the coal is burned away, what's left behind are these trace minerals, things like arsenic, lead, mercury, selenium, and chromium. And these are highly concentrated. The coal ash can have concentrations of these contaminants that are 10 to 100 times greater than the level in the coals themselves.
Coal ash pond number 1 is right behind my house, literally pretty much in my backyard. We were approached by a neighbor who was wanting to have their well tested, and we decided that maybe we should have ours tested as well. They found hexavalent chromium at 4.5 parts per billion.
So in talking to the residents, we have discovered anecdotal evidence of an extraordinary number of cancers for this fairly small community.
Some of us in the community got together. We started kind of talking about all the cancer that we've seen in some of our family friends in this community. I think we had somewhere in the neighborhood of around 70 names. So we had some help from our river keepers putting a map together. And it was a little shocking to see it. You know, I still have a hard time looking at it.
Technically, EPA has not regulated coal ash as a hazardous waste, but it is undeniable that coal ash contains many, many hazardous substances that are hazardous, in fact, to people and the environment. And the only reason they have not been regulated as such is because of intense lobbying efforts by the coal industry and its allies.
A lot of these chemicals are simple elements, but when you find them at the levels that they exist in around coal ash ponds, then you're starting to talk about cancer, brain tumors, you're talking about birth defects, developmental problems, neurotoxicity.
We began to look at legal options, cases that we could bring in court to protect communities and their citizens from these toxic leaking time bombs. In 2002, North Carolina enacted a public financing mechanism for judicial elections. This kept private money out of judicial elections.
The repeal of the public financing program in judicial elections in North Carolina creates a dangerous precedent for all, and it gives corporate polluters and other special interests the opportunity to elect the judges that they want. And this is important for us all. Everyone should care about this, because when you think about the fact that the state and the federal government have basically abdicated their responsibility to regulate these issues, the state courts are the last stopgap.
I think this is no longer a problem that's going to go under the radar. It has been exposed, and I am confident that we will ultimately, with the facts, win out and ensure that we have protected waterways.
And so this is something that we all should care about. If we're worried about the water we drink and the air we breathe, we have to be concerned about money in judicial elections.
At Earth Justice, we defend the environment in the courtroom. Join our fight. When you take a seat, you take a stand. Earth Justice, because the Earth needs a good lawyer.
The average text takes your eyes off the road for nearly 5 seconds. At highway speeds, that's enough time to travel the length of a football field. Stop the texts, stop the wrecks.
broadcasting around the nation, on your radio, on your TV, and online. This is the Bill Press Show.
What's up, kiddos? It's me, Clinton Yates. I write for the Washington Post. I'm filling in for Bill here on a Tuesday, December 29, 2015. I want to thank everybody for tuning in. Those of you watching live on Free Speech TV and Talker TV, you can see my sweet sweater. Free Speech is seen on DirecTV and Dish Network. And, of course, Talker TV is on youtube.com/TalkerTV. If you want to give us a phone call, 866-55-PRESS, 866-557-7377 is the number. We're on Twitter at BP Show. Peter Ogbur's here, Jimmy Benson's here, Ray Rogers is here, Cyprian Bolding is here. What up, gang?
Hey, guys. Here we are.
What are we going to do today?
You know, it's that holiday week, man.
It's that holiday week, man.
I love this week. This is a great little.
Do you
sweet
like
spot.
this week?
I do.
I don't like this
First of all, I love New Year's. I don't like going out for New Year's Eve,
Right,
and all
we've
that, but I
discussed
like
this.
New
Yeah.
Year's, and I like Christmas. And I know that there's a lull in productivity all around the country this week, but I do kind of like the quietness. Right, I get a lot of things.
Not
done.
a lot of traffic.
Not a lot of traffic.
In the district, yeah.
I do kind of like it.
I don't love it. I mean, of course, though, it's Kwanzaa, so I'm celebrating wildly.
I hope you're having a blessed one.
Blessed Kwanzaa.
A blessed Kwanzaa.
Me and Hillary Clinton. All right, we got a lot to get to, and we've got a guest on the line, but first.
This is the Full Court Press.
Just a couple of other stories making news here. How about this?
How about it?
British astronaut Tim Peake, he arrived at the International Space
Slow
Station.
down. The Brits have astronauts?
Yeah, I didn't know this.
I
either.
didn't know that.
This was actually like I skimmed past that because I assumed
news
people knew that.
upon
But I
news.
didn't know it.
Yeah,
I didn't know it.
I didn't know that.
So they have a British astronaut named Tim Peake. He went to the International Space Station on December 15th. He's going to be there for 6 months. And so on Crema, he phoned home. He was calling home to wish his family a Merry Christmas, all of this, right?
Boxing Day.
Well, here's the problem. He got the wrong number. So they have a camera on him as he's dialing, right? Because they want to get this footage. So he calls and he says, "Hello? Is this planet Earth?"
Is it me?
Yeah. He says, "Hello? Is this planet Earth?" And nobody answered. And they said, "Excuse me?" And he says, "Oh, I'm sorry, wrong number." He dialed the wrong number.
Yo, how do you get
from
the wrong
space?
number
He dialed the wrong number from space. So they thought it was a prank call, but it was just him dialing the wrong number.
That's
so,
amazing, though.
shout out to you, Tim Peake.
Did he ever get in touch with his family?
He did, yeah.
Okay.
He dialed the.
Who's that other family? I would love to be that other family.
Yeah.
You remember that time that astronaut
That-
called the
just
crib?
some-
You know?
Yeah, just called us.
He is the first British astronaut to visit the International Space Station as well.
Thank you, Jamie.
Tidbit.
Thank you.
Fun facts.
Yeah. All right, so the Swiss, they have this great idea. They just passed a law to make this happen. I kind of love this idea.
All right.
But by the summer of 2017, and they just passed this law, all mobile telephones must use the same charger. A universal charger for all phones across the board.
I love this.
You know, if you've got a Galaxy or if you've got an Android or you got an iPhone, right, they must all have the same charger. So no matter where you go, no matter where you are.
But then again, why do you own an Android?
That's a good question. I mean, there is that question too. But if you do,
Yeah.
you can charge it on anywhere.
I'm ambivalent on this. That's a good idea in theory. I feel like in practice, it's a little bit limiting to the businesses in your country.
I get that. Speaking as a consumer,
Right.
like I think it's kind of great, but
Not a bad idea.
I think that's a valid.
Okay,
that's a
Swiss,
valid
get it done.
point. Last night it was football action as the Cincinnati Bengals took on the Denver Broncos.
The Who Days.
Yes, it was a must-win situation. And the Broncos did exactly that. Took it to OT last night. 20-17 was the final score as the Broncos kicked a field goal in overtime to seal their fate, sends them to the playoffs.
I did not stay up for that one.
Nor
because
did I.
was too busy wondering what's going on with my HGH prescription. I'm just joking. That's a reference to Paisley. Thank you, Peter. In far more serious matters, we were discussing the case of Tamir Rice in Cleveland, specifically Cuyahoga County, yesterday. And on the line, we have trial lawyer and legal analyst Debbie Hines. You can find her on Twitter at Legal Speaks. Good morning, Debbie.
Good morning, guys.
How are you?
I'm great. How are you doing?
I'm all right. And I was discussing this case from a very sort of personal standpoint as a black man in this country, but you, from a professional standpoint, I think there's a lot of things that people don't necessarily understand in terms of sort of the roles of grand juries and prosecutors. Can you tell me a little bit about how the prosecutor sort of approached that press conference yesterday?
The prosecutor approached the whole situation as if he were a defense attorney for the police officer. That's number one. And what I said throughout is that the prosecutor did not, like many others in these instances, did not do his job. It's just that plain and simple. As prosecutors, and we're going into the grand jury, we're going in there for one and one only reason, and that's to get an indictment. That's the whole reason. We're not going in there, as Mr. McGinty did, in order to sway the grand jury to not indict the police officer. So that's the whole essence of this case. He was acting as the defense attorney, in essence, for the police officer.
Could you tell me a little bit about how that inherent, I guess it's bias, but how his position as the prosecutor, can you talk to me a little bit about what the decision he has to make is in order to activate that form of institutional protection for the police officer? Where is the decision he has to make? Where does it come to the point where he has to make a decision and say, this is what I'm going to do, and it thus becomes acceptable?
Well, like I said, his position as a prosecutor, as any prosecutor throughout the 50 states and the District of Columbia, is to basically go in to seek an indictment. If the prosecutor does not think that the case it has probable cause, that's the term we use, to proceed, that there's not enough there to indict based on the prosecution's investigation of the case, then you don't take it into the grand jury. It's just that simple. And you just decide that you're not going to seek the indictment. It's not a complicated system at all. And that's why, there's that saying that says, a prosecutor could indict a ham sandwich. And that is probably true unless it was a white police officer shooting a black kid, or in all the other instances that we've seen. But it's nothing complicated where you believe that you have enough probable cause, which is not the same as reasonable doubt, to get a conviction, but you believe that you have enough information that a crime has occurred, and in this case, at a very minimum, manslaughter occurred, if not higher, and murder, then you take it before the grand jury. You do not scour around and get experts to prove that the police officer was not, in fact, should not be, in fact, charged with the crime.
We're talking to trial lawyer and legal analyst Debbie Hines here on the Bill Press Show. My name is Clinton Yates. I'm filling in for Bill. You sound a bit offended, not just personally, but professionally. Some of the information he brought forward was a little oddball if you're just a regular person, but sort of legally and professionally, were you surprised by how he handled that?
Yeah, absolutely. Professionally, what he is supposed to do is to do his job for the citizens, in this instance, of his county. He's supposed to go in, and if a crime has been committed, or if there's enough, facts there, and there's clearly enough facts there in the video alone for a crime to have been committed, then you go in and you do your job, just as every other person that has a job does their job every day, or you're fired. The problem with these prosecutors are that they're elected, and they feel that they are, in these types of cases, above the law. They're working with the police every day, and sometimes, and then a lot of times, as we're seeing recently, they actually cross the line, and I actually believe it's unethical. That's where you're hearing the outrage. That's the outrage. It's not just a matter of you're not doing your job. I believe you're crossing the line and potentially getting into something that's unethical.
To that point, though, do you think that McGinty is going to face any sort of retribution for this, legally or otherwise?
Well, we certainly didn't see any retribution or anything happen with McCullough, and that was the prosecutor, in the Michael Brown case in Ferguson. So, the retribution has to be that people have to vote these people out of office. They're elected. We have to vote these people out of office. That's what has to be done. And it's not a matter of whether it's really at this point not a matter of a party thing, meaning a political party thing. You need to get people in office that are going to uphold the office that they're doing.
We're talking with trial lawyer and legal analyst Debbie Hines here on the Bill Press Show. You can find her on Twitter @LegalSpeaks. What do you think is the part of this that the average public probably doesn't understand the most in terms of the process of how these sort of things develop? People see, grand jury doesn't indict, everybody walks away freely. But is there anything more to come? We talked earlier about maybe a potential civil case. How does that go?
Well, that's the unfortunate thing. I mean, in most of the police shootings, and particularly the police shootings involving minorities, whether it's black, brown, or any other minority, the cities and the counties are very likely to settle the case. There is a pending civil suit in the Tamir Rice case, but paying out millions of dollars as they've done, and as different jurisdictions have done in other cases, whether it's the Freddie Gray case in Baltimore or the Jonathan Farrell case in Charlotte, North Carolina, or any of the other cases that have happened where they just paid out money. Money is not justice. A civil suit is not justice. And that's what is lacking in the cases that are involving these police shootings, is actually trying to get justice on behalf of the victim, in this case, Tamir Rice.
I'll ask you this personally, but as a professional, if that makes sense. Where do you think the Tamir Rice case fits in to all of the other things that have been happening on this front in the last, let's just say, 3 years, in terms of America's consciousness being awoken?
Well, his case is right there. I mean, except that on one instance, I mean, you have a child. You have a 12-year-old child, did not even get to have his 13th birthday, who is actually playing in a park. His case, I think, is really, because of that, I think is the most egregious one that we've seen in the last few years. It's just the most egregious one. Because of that, the police just get out of the vehicle, as we've seen on the tape, and they don't ask any questions. They just start shooting. And then he dies. And then they do nothing. Nothing to help him. He dies a day later, but they do nothing to assist him. So when you're looking at the facts of his case, and it's a toy gun, for God's sake, with someone that looks 12-year-old, he doesn't look, as the police officer says in the tape, that, oh, well, maybe he's 20. It has to be the most egregious one, because what we're seeing is, in America, a black child cannot go out and play. And then I've seen online where people have actually tried to accuse the mother for, well, why should he have had a gun? Look, a kid should be able to be a kid, regardless of what they're playing with, and the police, when they're called on the scene, should be able to act appropriately. And so this has got to be the most egregious one we've seen so far.
What happens next?
Well, that's a tough question, because even though people are crying for the Department of Justice to intervene, I mean, that's kind of a higher standard, and you have to, in this instance, you'd have to prove more than what the state prosecutor who failed to do. You'd have to prove more than that. I mean, you've got to find some type of a hate crime or a race-based crime, and that's why it's just so difficult, and that's why the Justice Department declined to bring any charges in the Michael Brown case, in the Eric Garner case, and in other cases. That's a more difficult standard, where all you really have is a police officer getting out of a car and just going ahead and shooting. So all that you really have is basically two things. You have the civil suit, which I said, money is not justice. That's a whole different system. But you have that, and basically we've got to keep these protests going. I mean, we've got to keep demanding justice. We cannot keep going into saying, oh, well, there's another one. And we've got to get these elected prosecutors out of office, which means we got to get out and vote. We've got to get these elected prosecutors out of office that are not doing their job, that are potentially crossing the ethics line in not doing their job.
Thank you, Debbie.
Thank you.
I appreciate it. She's Debbie Hines. She's a trial lawyer and a legal analyst. You can find her on Twitter @LegalSpeaks. My name is Clinton Yates. I write for the Washington Post. You can find me on Twitter @Clinton Yates. We'll be back. It's the Bill Press Show.
Follow us on Twitter @BP Show. This is the Bill Press Show.
So this is my computer.
This is your computer. Let's go on the internet.
Let's go. Click it.
Yes.
Okay.
I cursor in between the R and the E. When I say dot, I want you to just push the period.
She's gonna love me all over again.
That's it. Jamaica, here you go.
Here we go.
Good job.
Thank you. Thank you. And I did it by myself. Feel smarter.
So, I'm kind of new here, but I've noticed a trend. My human does this funny thing where she goes around and gets all my toys, and then she hides them in that basket by the door. But it's always the same basket, and it's always in the same place. And then she acts so surprised when I find them, but, she's putting them in the same basket. Again. It's like, hello, that's where you put it last time. You were the worst at hide and go seek.
So, same time next week?
Well, of course. Put away a few bucks, feel like $1 million. For free tips to help you save, go to Feed the Pig.
All right. I know this isn't any fun to talk about, but we should. Okay, so who's gonna do what?
I'll pack the dead batteries.
Great.
I'll only put what I don't need into a duffel bag.
Perfect. That's totally unhelpful.
No problem.
Meanwhile, I will try to comfort everyone by speaking in a calm voice.
And I'll try to get the generator going without any gas.
Oh, let's not forget the cell phones, which probably won't work.
Right.
And who is going to handle supplies?
I can forget to do a list for us.
Thanks, pal.
Well, I think we couldn't be any less prepared. I'm proud of you guys.
Talk to your kids about who to call, where to meet, what to pack. Visit ready.gov/kids for tips and information.
Hey, thanks for stopping by. You know, I followed your character since the first episode. I'm a big fan, big fan.
Thank you.
And listen, your storyline, it makes for incredible TV drama. Thing is, your drug use is very adult content. Too adult for the kids. So I'm gonna have to block you.
Oh, man.
Yeah. Well, have a good one.
You're a nice lady.
This is the Bill Press Show.
Welcome back to the program. My name is Clinton Yates. I'm lounged back in my chair if you're watching on TawkrTV or on Free Speech TV. I'm normally pretty aggressive. I take an athletic stance, as the homie Freeman would say, into the microphone.
That's a good way to put it.
But right now, I'm chilling out.
Yeah.
Chilling out. So, it's the 4th day of Kwanzaa.
Bless up.
We, Look, all right, so he's hearkening back to the joke about Hillary Clinton tweeting out. And if you follow me on Twitter at Clinton Yates, I retweeted what you tweeted, which is the picture of Hillary's campaign pander toward the Kwanzaa crowd.
She changed the H logo to a green, red, and black.
There's a name for this. Hold on.
African designed.
It's not
Kwanzaa logo.
It's obviously not a menorah, but it's a
the Kwanzaa candle
candlestick holder thing. Probably should have a name. My mom is gonna be so embarrassed if she's listening right now.
Man.
Anyway, it's the 4th day. Do you know what the 4th principle is?
I'm embarrassed to say that.
Pop quiz, hot shot.
I'm embarrassed to say I do.
Jamie,
not know.
do you know?
No.
No.
I don't know that.
Good answer.
Yeah.
It is Ujamaa cooperative economics, to build and maintain our own stores, shops, and other businesses, and to profit from them together. Now, all of Kwanzaa's principles are obviously basically the same thing. which is, keep the money in the family.
Yeah.
Do what you're supposed to do. But Ujamaa, cooperative economics, it's a pretty good one.
That's a good one.
It's a good one. Yeah.
You don't.
Do you teach your kids Ujamaa?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I teach my lily white children.
Yeah, I know. All right. So we're all joking here. Anyway, so yesterday, Jamie, and you're not going to get out of this, we discussed New Year's plans and how one approaches New Year's. You're a younger man than the rest of us.
Here we
Jamie.
go.
So what is your past experience with how you approach New Year's, and how do you plan on taking this year, since it's obviously the most important year of your life because it's the most current one? How do you plan to approach this year, Mr. Benson?
I don't ever make plans in advance for New Year's.
Oh, hey,
here he goes, Mr. Big Time,
cool guy.
And if anything, I mean, tonight I'm going to go see the Roots, which the Roots are my favorite band of all time.
Social calendar comes first, Jamie. Oh, never forget, bud.
Yeah, I may or may not make the show tomorrow morning.
That'll be fun.
But no, I saw the Roots on New Year's Eve a couple years ago. They used to do New Year's Eve here in D.C. every single year.
I've seen it.
I'm upset they don't do that. So tonight's going to be my New Year's.
9:30?
Fillmore, Silver Spring.
Fillmore.
They've moved up north.
Well, you're not going to dodge the question.
Well, I was going to say, that had nothing to do with the question.
On New Year's Eve.
I don't know. I have no plans yet.
Wow. Okay, must be nice.
I don't want to stress out about
Radio, folks. It's not for everybody.
So I've decided that. Okay, everybody, calm down. These two are fighting like children in here. I've decided that I have a New Year's Eve plan.
Oh, all right.
I decided this in the last 30 seconds. I'm gonna go for my second viewing of Star Wars on New Year's Eve.
Strong.
That's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna see that movie hopefully at a time when I'm gonna pull a Jamie. I'm gonna walk out, and then as the plans come to me, then I will take them.
The plans make you. You don't make the plans.
Previous 2 hours. It was about 2.5 hours. I've seen it.
Yeah, it's about
2:15.
You said you were going to take me, right?
Maybe.
Well, I'll go.
TBD.
As long
plans
as he's not
have been
going.
bestowed upon you, Jamie.
TBD.
Plans have found you.
I don't know what's gonna find you, since you obviously haven't planned anything. But that might be the deal. There might be an NYE Star Wars season.
So are you gonna go and plan it to be in the movie at midnight?
No, I want to get out around 11.
Okay, there you go.
So people can just holler at me.
There you go.
Be like, oh, I just got out of Star
What's
Wars.
next?
I'm so cool.
There you go.
Not that cool. But I am Clinton Yates, and I do write for the Washington Post. When we get back, the best left center fielder in the DC Media Softball League is coming in to talk to this. It's the Bill Press Show.
This is the Bill Press Show.
When I started learning about nutrition, about which, by the way, much less is known than you might think, I learned that what mattered most about one's health was not necessarily the nutrients, good or bad, that you were consuming or staying away from, or even the calorie counts. But what predicted a healthy diet more than anything else is the fact that it was being cooked by a human being and not a corporation. Corporations cook very differently than people do. They use vast amounts of salt, fat, and sugar, much more than you would ever use in your own cooking. And the reason they do that is those are three incredibly attractive and incredibly cheap ingredients. And when they're layered properly, as in a chip or pastries and forms of junk food, they're incredibly addictive. They really press our buttons. They activate our dopamine network, our cravings. And in fact, people in the industry, they don't talk about addiction in the food industry, even though they traffic in addiction. They talk about craveability. It's the same thing. And snackability is another term they use. It's a lovely word. And then the last point about corporate cooking that's important to understand is they cook different stuff than you do at home. What they're good at, in general, they don't cook that well, but things like chips, they cook incredibly well. And here's a classic food that if you make it yourself, if you've ever made French fries, you have to wash the potatoes, you have to peel the potatoes, you have to slice the potatoes, you have to fry them in a lot of oil, you have to spatter your entire stovetop, you have to clean up, and then you have this pot of oil you have to get rid of. I mean, it's really difficult, and it's a pain. They're wonderful, but it's a pain. And if you make them yourself, you'll only eat them every 6 weeks, 2 months, because it's too much work. But when you let corporations cook for you, it's so simple and so inexpensive, and they're really good, that you will have them twice a day, as many people in America do. So you see the kinds of foods you end up with are these labor-intensive foods and desserts. These special occasion foods become everyday foods when we let industry cook for us. Eat anything you want, just cook it yourself.
At Earth Justice, we defend the environment in the courtroom. Join our fight. When you take a seat, you take a stand. Earth Justice, because the Earth needs a good lawyer.
You wouldn't let money just blow out of your house. So when your AC or heater is on, make sure the doors, windows, and fireplace flue are shut tight. If you're headed out, turn down the AC or lower the heat by 10 degrees. And always keep your water heater set at 120. A little bit of common sense goes a long way. Get more great tips at energysaver.gov.
So, I'm kind of new here, but I've noticed a trend. My human does this funny thing where she goes around and gets all my toys, and then she hides them in that basket by the door. You know, but it's always the same basket, and it's always in the same place. And then she acts so surprised when I find them, but, you know, she's putting them in the same basket. Again. It's like, hello, that's where you put it last time. You were the worst at hide and go seek.
Streaming live video right now at youtube.com/TawkrTV. That's TAWKR-TV. This is The Bill Press Show.
Hey, welcome back to the show. My name is Clint Yates. I write for the Washington Post, filling in for Bill here on a Tuesday. In studio with us is feature writer. I didn't even know that was your actual title, Ben.
I'm not sure it is.
For the Washington Post, Ben Terrace. He also happens to be a tremendous softball player. I know that because he's on my team. You can follow him on Twitter at @BTerrace. Good morning, Ben.
Good morning.
So we have a couple things we have to get to before we get to the meat of the matter. Number one, you just told me you just saw Star Wars. Your thoughts?
It was really fun, and I'm not even like a real Star Wars nut. It was a good time.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Well, who is your favorite character? No spoilers.
Favorite character?
From that movie.
From that movie. I like Finn. Finn was good, yeah. He had good comic timing, which was unexpected, you know?
Yeah, no, it was very good writing in that movie. What you don't know is that I changed my Twitter display name to Fenton Yates.
Ooh.
Hey-oh, I'm with it. Other thing is this. So here's the deal. We moved into a new building, Peter.
Yeah.
And like, listen, the Post-moving buildings was a monster deal. I've talked about it on this show many times. It was like, I don't even know what it is at this point. But moving out of 1150 15th Street and moving into, what is it, 1301K?
We go by 1 Franklin Square.
Oh, do we?
It's more prestigious.
I'm sorry.
Yeah,
I was not aware.
I mean, how much better does that sound?
It sounds a little better, but it sounds very law firmish.
True. Good point.
It's in the K Street corridor, but like the thing is, nobody knows where anybody sits anymore, Peter. And so the deal was, here was the deal in the newsroom back in the day. You'd come in, and if you wanted to see certain people, you'd make your little rounds.
You got a round.
You know, to your certain desks. And there was certain routes that you could take, and you'd be like, all right, I'll find my way to my desk via this route. Now, nobody knows where anybody is.
Yeah, plus the lights were so like dimmed in the last place, you could kind of wander around in a shroud of darkness, and now all of a sudden it's just the brightest place in the entire world.
And I have no idea where Ben sits.
That's a total head trip.
And that means and that means I don't see any of my friends. Yeah. It's totally different.
And good luck texting me because I have no cell phone service where I sit, so I can't do my job. But you know, I'm not bitter or anything.
Oh no,
it's an issue.
Really?
it's an issue.
But for anyone listening out there, it's a beautiful building, and we're happy to be there.
It is very
no real complaints.
It is very nice, and there are no real complaints. However, nobody can get in touch.
Please don't fire me.
So you have been hanging out with, discussing, speaking of movies, the guy who wrote The Revenant.
Yeah, except for hanging out is the wrong word.
I was gonna say what okay, so let me back this up and do this correctly.
Sure.
The man who wrote The Revenant works for the government in X capacity go?
So he's the ambassador to the World Trade Organization. He lives in Geneva. So what makes the story interesting is he's an unknown novelist. He wrote this, this book about 15 years ago. It got, pretty good reviews. It got kicked around by like some studios, but no one ever did anything with it. And it was kind of the only thing he did. He wrote some other books, but never really made it as a writer. And then all of a sudden, he's having the biggest moment that any writer could ask for. A major motion picture being made of your book. Leonardo DiCaprio's in it, but he's not even allowed to talk about it because he works for the government. So while the premiere was happening in Hollywood, he was in Nairobi negotiating a $1.3 trillion trade deal.
As you do.
Like
Levels.
you do.
Yeah.
His wife and kids were hanging out with Leonardo DiCaprio, and he was, he didn't even know what was going on because he was in Nairobi.
That's pretty unbelievable.
That's incredible.
So have you seen the preview?
I've seen the movie. I've seen The Revenant.
Whoa, hold on.
Look at you.
Speaking of levels.
You gonna put that in the show prep email?
Yeah,
Mr. Benson?
Mr. Benson's seen The Revenant as well.
Whoa.
There are certain perks to being members of SAG.
Hold on here.
Including the screeners, which we have gotten.
So you've seen the movie?
I've seen the movie.
With the big bear and everything.
Big old bear and everything.
Because I saw the preview, and I was like, this is not a movie for me. There are white guys wandering in the wilderness, in the cold, wearing, skins of various animals, and they're trying to kill each other.
They're called pelts.
Oh,
pelts.
Pardon me.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm not familiar.
Please.
The Scott Van Pelts. I'm not familiar. What did you? Okay, let's try to meld these two things together. It's a fictional tale, right?
Well, it's historical fiction. So there was a guy named Hugh Glass, which he really did get attacked by a bear and survived. As far as I know, that's kind of all that's real about it.
Okay.
And this guy, Michael Punk, who's the ambassador to the World Trade Organization, which is still crazy to say.
Right.
You imagine this book being written, like, as I said in the story I wrote, you imagine it that it was written in, like, a cabin in Montana by candlelight, like, with bourbon and just, just tortured.
It's such a
lot of
rugged
axes,
story.
Right. Axes on the wall.
But it was written in a glass box in Farragut Square. I mean, this guy was a high-profile, lawyer at the time, just working at a law office at 4 a.m. writing this book. It wasn't written where you imagine it to be written. But anyway, was the movie good?
It was really good. It was really, really good. If you're not familiar with the whole concept, I'm not going to give the whole thing away, but it deals with fur trappers who are out in the wild. I mean, out in the frontier, right, of the Louisiana Purchase, hunting down and gathering pelts, and sort of the struggle to survive in those conditions with indigenous people who are obviously very concerned about these trappers who are coming into their land, and just the other sort of perils of being out in the open like that.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a harrowing tale of what happens to this guy Hugh Glass when he gets attacked by a bear.
So it's typical fodder for a Washington bureaucrat.
Yeah, very typical.
Yeah. Basic source material. We're talking with Ben Terrace here, feature writer for the Washington Post. You can find him on Twitter at @BTerrace. His wife, however, is allowed to talk about it, Mr. Punks.
Yeah. So she's not a bureaucrat. She was happy to talk to me on the phone and tell me what it's been like for her. And
what was that experience like?
For me or for her?
For her, for you. I mean, listen, not talking to a guy when you're writing about a guy is always a weird thing.
Yeah,
as
it's
a writer.
Strange thing. Well, first of all, her experience with this whole experience has been a real trip, she said. I mean, she got to fly from Geneva to Hollywood and go to, a red carpet party with, Hollywood stars. That's not the typical thing that anybody gets to do. She went with the kids. It was a great time. And she said it was also a little disappointing because, this is her husband's life work, or one of his 2 life works, because he also does all this other stuff for the government. And he didn't get to enjoy it with them. So it was kind of a little bit bittersweet, is what she said. And for me, it was weird because I got to talk to his brother, his wife, his friends, his former coworkers, and he wasn't able to talk to me at all.
What was his brother like? I imagine, the bro is the catbird position there. We're like, you see the sweet book my brother wrote?
Yeah.
Check it out. That's bro. You can be the sort of best man without having to do with the work there.
That's
in
true.
that scenario.
He's become kind of the de facto spokesman for his brother. But that's
He's
awesome.
like Turtle.
Yeah,
sure.
Exactly.
Sure. Or Johnny Drama.
But Drama's kind of a bum. Anyway,
well, this guy's not a bum. I think he's a highly successful member of society as well. But also, you have to imagine, right? So you're the younger brother of a guy, and your brother is like this dashing ambassador in a big position, living in Geneva. He's worked in the Clinton White House. He's been a high-profile lawyer. and he now is a super successful novelist. It's like, that's the worst job in the world to be that guy's little brother. Like,
Good point.
Imagine being the parents and being like, yeah, we got 2 great sons, you know. One is an ambassador and one is a novelist, and we also have another son.
And then there's Chad.
Exactly. Who's out here just talking trash. We're talking with Ben Terrace, feature writer for The Washington Post. You can find him on Twitter at bterrace. Are you going to see the movie?
I am going to see the movie. I did read the book, and it made me not want to see the movie because it seems really intense, and there's just like festering wounds and maggots and disgusting
It's torture
things.
porn.
Oh.
It's torture porn.
Yeah.
It really is. It's harrowing. It's a very intense movie, and it's also like the scenes of violence. There's not a ton of violence, I shouldn't say, but the violence that is in the movie is profoundly violent.
Would the children be welcome?
100% no.
Oh, okay. So
100%
shut
no.
it down. Dad's
Shut
watching
it down.
a movie.
Yeah.
Stay out of the basement.
We watched this one after the kids went to bed.
Wow.
I mean, I found myself turning away, like covering my eyes while reading, which doesn't work because then, like, you're not getting anywhere in the book.
Yeah, you
so
can't.
at least in the movie, like, you can cover your eyes, and then if you open them again, it's like 5 minutes later, and maybe we've moved.
It's also there are some parts of the story that are just hard to deal with, right? And it's not just like watching it or reading about the torture part of it. It's part of the actual story with what happens to his son and what and how they view him because he has a child that is a Native American, right? It's just hard to deal with.
None of that is in the book. He's got no son.
Oh, really?
No son in the book. Although they make it pretty clear in the previews that he at least at one point has.
Yeah. The previews.
No, that's not a spoiler.
Okay,
but
whatever. Yeah.
No wife, no son in the book.
Right.
It's you have to do some things to make it a more appealing movie, I suppose.
Yeah.
Old school trapping fanfic. All right, when we get back, we're going to talk about the other things that Ben gets to do as part of his tremendous job for tremendous paper. The Washington Post, which is where I work. I'm Clinton Yates. This is the Bill Press Show. We'll be back.
On your radio, on TV, and online. This is the Bill Press Show.
A single ember that escapes from a wildfire can travel more than a mile. That single ember can ignite and destroy your home or even your community. You can't control where that ember will land, only what happens when it does. Get Fire Adapted now at fireadapted.org.
Columbine, Virginia Tech,
Tucson,
Aurora,
Fort Hood, Oak Creek,
Newtown.
Newtown,
Newtown.
Newtown.
How many more?
How many more? How many more colleges? How many more classrooms?
How many more movie theaters?
How many more houses of faith?
How many more shopping malls?
How many more street corners?
How many more?
How many more?
Enough.
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 Demand a plan.
Right now. As a mom.
As a dad. As a friend. As a husband.
As a wife.
As an American.
As an American.
As an American.
As a human being.
For the children of Sandy Hook.
Demand a plan. No more lists of names. It's not too soon.
It's too late.
Now is the time.
Before we all know someone who loved someone on that list.
No more lists.
No more.
Who they might have been. No more.
If we had just done something yesterday. It's time.
We can do better than this.
We can do better than this.
It's time.
It's time.
It's time for our leaders to act. Demand a plan. Right now.
Right now.
You! Demand it!
Enough.
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 This is why you took a second job.
you taught yourself how to fix the plumbing. Why you'll do whatever it takes to keep your home. And that is why we want to help. We are making home affordable, a free government resource that can make paying the mortgage easier. Call 888-995-HOPE today.
The most valuable morning radio show, according to The Nation magazine. This is The Bill Press Show.
Welcome back to the program, folks. My name is Clinton Yates. I write for the Washington Post. Ben Terrace, my colleague and teammate, Media League Softball. We're gunning for the title this year, Ben.
Oh, yeah. We got it.
We got to win this.
Yeah.
We're sort of like the, trying to think of a comparable team. Sort of like the, maybe not quite the Buffalo Bills, but we keep hanging around in the playoffs.
Just scary enough.
Just scary enough. Or if you
Okay.
show up and have an off day, you're going to lose. But we're not really threatening anybody. But we'll see how that goes. He's a feature writer. You can find him on Twitter at @BTerrace. Ben, tell Peter the party you got to go to recently.
Well, I'll start by saying 8th grade me, 9th grade me, high school me would have been so jealous of me now.
Oh, man.
High Times Magazine.
Yeah.
Gala at the Washington Hilton, which is just a really weird thing to think about, that High Times Magazine was having a party at the same place that the White House Correspondents' Dinner happened.
That's amazing. That's legit amazing.
It was like an award show to give out, the Trailblazers. Get it?
Hey-o!
Trailblazers.
I get it.
The Trailblazers award for best strain, best vaporizer, best medical store. There were 50 people there getting awards for their ability to grow outside or whatever people who grow pot do. It was a really strange time.
What was your you were there to be writing?
Yeah, I wrote about it. Basically, just write about how pot parties aren't what they used to be. They used to be these illicit affairs. They'd happen at the O Street mansion, at the middle of the night, and you wouldn't tell anybody about it except for the people you wanted to be there. And now there's Evites going out, and people are sipping on white wine and eating shrimp cocktail and medium rare steak. Yeah, it was weird.
Smoking pot's just not that much fun anymore, right? This whole thing of guys in suits selling you devices. I mean, look, pot's plenty of fun,
right?
But the fact that it's become big business, right? And there are corporations of straight dudes that are selling you stuff now.
Yeah, I talked to the
sort of a turnoff.
I talked to the guy who founded Normal, this guy Keith Stroop.
We've had him in studio.
That guy is a character.
He's a real pistol.
But can you imagine being him, right? He used to be a revolutionary who was going to get arrested, and you were collecting crumpled dollar bills from drug lords to, to fund your organization. And now it's he's just kind of the toast of the town. He's signing autographs, and people are happy to see him. There are cops there, and they just basically let people smoke in the middle of a hotel. It was very strange. Even though that's not legal, it was filled with vaporizer.
That's remarkable.
Yeah.
We're talking with Ben Terrace, a feature writer for the Washington Post. You can find him on Twitter at @BTerrace. Is that a party you would go to if you were invited, Peter?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, in a big way.
In a big way.
I just think it'd be a lot of fun.
Because you made the point that it's a little listen, it's a little weird.
I think that the business of marijuana now is fascinating. It's sort of a turnoff, but it's just fascinating that there's this whole economy now, right? And it's sort of it's not in its infancy anymore. It's a couple years old of people who are making these. There was a guy who worked for Apple, and he left Apple because he wanted to make the iPhone of vaporizers, right? Like an upscale, futuristic, well-made handheld vaporizer. It's great.
Okay.
I own it.
Okay. Fair enough.
But people are making these kinds of products now where it's not smoking pot off of an old Coke can or making bowls out of aluminum foil
rolling
anymore.
blunts in the alley.
Right. It's a whole thing.
I wrote a profile of the POTS Chamber of Commerce, the equivalent of the POTS Chamber of Commerce. They have their own lobbyist.
Yeah.
So I wrote a profile of this guy, and he's just a really boring lobbyist who said he smoked pot once. And then I called his mom, and I kind of blew up his spot. And it was
liar!
Narc!
She was like, I did not know that. He doesn't even drink coffee now, so my guess is he's not still smoking it. And I was like, true.
That's funny.
That's great.
But Clinton, before you move on to this, you're going to be excited to hear this scoop I got at the High Times magazine party. I talked to the editor-in-chief. The High Times Magazine softball team is the best in the New York City.
Not
media
buying
league.
it.
Whoa.
Not
No.
buying it.
I played them. They won every single year. They were undefeated. Their team, the Bong Hitters. They never
That's
lost.
a great name.
They never lost. But
incredible.
here's the scoop. I talked to the editor-in-chief, and I was like, how do you have such a good team?
Do they blaze before games? is the
Well, they
question.
do, at games, because I've seen them.
Yeah, right.
That's not in
It's
question.
like a constant loop. Of,
But the scoop, the editor-in-chief was like, oh, yeah, none of those guys work for us.
Oh,
ringers.
Ringers.
Whoa.
That's
it blew my
frowned
mind.
upon.
It blew my mind.
That is
foolish.
frowned
They've won the
upon.
league so many years in a row that the New Yorker wrote a talk of the town about them for being.
I
so
believe
good.
that because back in the day, before Gawker decided they wanted to be a political site, they used to do updates on the Media League softball in New York.
Sure.
And here's you want to know something else? The softball leagues in New York are very, very territorial and fiefdom like.
Yeah.
And so like there's a museum league. This is a totally random story, but there's a museum league, and certain museums have to like fight to get in the league based on their museumness.
Oh,
because there
wow.
are a lot of different museums.
Sure,
in New York.
yeah.
And so,
No, that
like,
makes sense,
The
actually.
fortitude of your anyway. That's a whole other side story. That is a good note.
they're
though.
all ringers.
I went
ringers.
to a pot business expo in DC. I want to say it was. This would have been last summer.
Yeah.
Probably in June or so. And so it was like because the legalization situation in DC allowed for that. And so there were all these like products and people were selling, they were selling everything from grow lights to security systems and all this stuff. And I think you're right. There's an interesting world of does pot, for those who are longtime users of not just the drug, but is the psychology around it changed by the corporatization of the business and the legalization of it? Does it legitimately become less fun for people if it's like a job? It's an interesting thing to think about.
Yeah, it's probably more fun for like the paranoid people because at least you're not like worried about the cops like kicking down your door the way
Right.
that you used to have to be.
I go either way on this, right? Like I'm a longtime pot smoker. I just recently stopped smoking pot on a daily basis, but like it's the illicitness of it all is kind of fun,
right?
And so, on one hand, I kind of miss out on that, but then again, you've got like a lot of cooler things out there. Like there's just some cool things out there to play with and toy around with that you just never had when you were a less informed pot smoker, right? There's just a whole new world. So
Thank you, Ben.
It goes either way.
You're welcome.
Good to see you.
Yeah, good to be here.
Let's go get high.
Washington Post softball, the drones coming to a field near you. Ben Terrace is a good hitter and a good fielder. He's a better feature writer for the Washington Post. I'm Clinton Yates. This is the Bill Press Show.
Connect with The Bill Press Show on Twitter. Follow us at BP Show and tweet using the hashtag WatchingBP. This is The Bill Press Show.
At Earth Justice, we defend the environment in the courtroom. Join our fight. When you take a seat, you take a stand. Earth Justice, because the Earth needs a good lawyer.
You wouldn't let money just blow out of your house. So when your AC or heater is on, make sure the doors, windows, and fireplace flue are shut tight. If you're headed out, turn down the AC or lower the heat by 10 degrees. And always keep your water heater set at 120. A little bit of common sense goes a long way. Get more great tips at energysaver.gov.
So, I'm kind of new here, but I've noticed a trend. My human does this funny thing where she goes around and gets all my toys, and then she hides them in that basket by the door. But it's always the same basket, and it's always in the same place. And then she acts so surprised when I find them, but, she's putting them in the same basket. Again. It's like, hello, that's where you put it last time. You were the worst at hide and go seek.
What the frack?
What the frack?
What the frack?
What the frack?
President Obama, are you fracking kidding me?
Reopen the EPA studies.
In Texas, Wyoming, and Pennsylvania.
Fracking pollutes our oceans.
Fracking poisons our water.
Fracking makes climate change worse.
Fracking relies on toxic chemicals that cause cancer.
Ban fracking now.
Ban fracking now.
Go on. Ban it.
Ban fracking now.
Please.
All right. I know this isn't any fun to talk about, but we should. Okay. So who's going to do what?
I'll pack the dead batteries.
Great.
I'll only put what I don't need into a duffel bag.
Perfect. That's totally unhelpful.
No problem.
Meanwhile, I will try to comfort everyone by speaking in a calm voice.
And I'll try to get the generator going without any gas.
Oh, let's not forget the cell phones, which probably won't work.
Right.
And who is going to handle supplies?
I can forget to do a list for us.
Thanks, pal.
Well, I think we couldn't be any less prepared. I'm proud of you guys.
Talk to your kids about who to call, where to meet, what to pack. Visit ready.gov/kids for tips and information.
This is the Bill Press Show.
Welcome back to the program. My name is Clinton Yates. I write for the Washington Post. Peter Ogren is here in spirit. I just showed him the most ridiculous thing on earth.
Man.
Which is the... Okay, so I guess I'll just put this out here.
Yeah, just you got to.
If a dog wore pants, Jimmy, would the dog wear the pants, like, on the two back legs? Or, like, a lower undercarriage portion that covered all four legs, but only the bottom half of the dog?
The back legs, because some dogs can walk upright. Never seen that before?
Yeah, but dogs aren't walking upright. The idea is not to imitate a human, but it's pretty
They completely
I know.
It just threw me for a loop, man.
All right, we'd like to thank all our guests. Of course, Wesley Lowery, my colleague and national reporter for the Washington Post. We talked about Tamir Rice with him. He's obviously from Cleveland, has been reporting on police shootings for a long time. You can find him on Twitter at Wesley Lowery. Trial lawyer and legal analyst Debbie Hines also talked to us on the phone about the Tamir Rice case. You can find her on Twitter at LegalSpeaks. And our friend Ben Terrace, who's a feature writer for the Washington Post, you can find him on Twitter at bterrace, joined us in studio to talk about the book, The Revenant, and the movie, and the guy who wrote it. For Peter Ogburn, for Jamie Benson, for Ray Rogers, for Cyprian Bolding. My name is Clinton Yates. Don't put pants on your dog. There's nothing cool about dogs wearing clothes. Just is, unless it's cold outside, which it kind of is. Either way, I'm Clinton Yates. We'll see you tomorrow.
This is the Bill Press Show.